Well, I'm so glad you could join us, everybody. I'm kidding. How's it going? How's it going? Should you run errands and come back? Let's see. What I'm gonna do is play the video of the hearing, okay, which is ap about 12 minutes, okay, from start to finish. And then so I'm just gonna play that in full. I'm not gonna pin any comments or, I'll just be back here watching it for the first time. Um But anyways, that way, after I finish the live, I can chop up the video and separate the 2. Some people don't like the live stream, some people do, so it kinda gives me different options that way. So, that's what we're gonna do today, okay? Allegedly. Let me remove that. Remove. Okay. Let me save changes. Okay. It's asking me all kinds of questions that I don't wanna answer. So let's see. There's that. And I'm gonna do like this full screen, and then whenever I push play, I'll be able to make this full screen too. And it's actually on Fox 10 Phoenix News website. That's where it's gonna be from. So, without further ado, here we go. Whoa.
Morning. You're the victim of a crime with a case pending before this court. You're advised that you have rights under Arizona law that, among others, include the right to be treated with fairness, respect, and dignity, to a speedy trial, to be present at court proceedings, to choose whether or not to be interviewed by the defendant or the defendant's attorney, to be heard before the court makes a decision on release, negotiation of a plea, scheduling and sentencing, and to receive restitution from a person who's convicted of causing you loss. If you have not already been provided with a written statement of all victims' rights, please contact the Victim Services Division of the Prosecutor's Office. Okay, we're ready to go on the record now in calendar number 1 and 2. This is CR 2022-001-242-001 and CR 2021-001-704-001. Matters of the State of Arizona versus Lori Vallow have appearances.
Good morning, Your Honor. Katie Staub, appearing for the state.
Morning.
Good morning, our Pamela Hicks and Robert Abernathy on behalf of Ms. Lori Vallow Daybell, who's present and in custody.
Thank you. Ma'am, tell me your full name and date of birth for the record.
Lori Daybell, 6/26/1973.
Thank you. All right. So last we were here, we were waiting on a second report from Dr. Hernandez. Since that time, Dr. Hernandez has been relieved. The court's appointed Dr. Webster. Dr. Webster has met with the defendant and submitted a report dated December 2nd, 2024. So we do have 2 reports. My understanding from the state is that there's some issue, though, with the redactions that were made to that report. Did you want to be heard on that, Ms. Staub?
Just briefly, I did send an email to the court and to defense counsel yesterday, just indicating upon review, the state's review of the most recent report. It seems like there were a lot of redactions made, most concerning in the opinion of the doctor. So I just wanted the court to have an opportunity to review that and assess basically whether those redactions were appropriate.
Okay. So redaction of Rule 11 reports is dictated by Rule 11.4A2. Redactions are allowed for any statements by the defendant about the charged offense or any other charged or uncharged offense or any summary of such offense. I read that to be very broad, but I don't read that to include anything outside of statements about those things. Did you wish to be heard on redactions?
No, I'm just looking, and if it's, and I did not bring my laptop, but I have my highlighted copy here, and if it says to section 4, the opinion as to competency, I had some things that I talked to my team about whether or not they were questionable, but I don't think I redacted, but the court can correct me if I'm wrong.
The state provided the court a copy of what they've received, and it does have a redaction here under the 4th section in the clinical formation on page 5 of the report. So it's that last sentence of the first paragraph there.
Oh, I think that was just because it was relating, it wasn't necessarily a statement, but the comment was relating to Idaho.
Okay. And I recognize a lot of the statements and information within Rule 11 proceedings might be concerning. There are certainly protections by law to prevent those from coming in as evidence at trial. And so rest assured that this information is not going to, unless it falls under limited exceptions, it's not going to bleed into any trial stages of the case. But from my reading of what's been redacted, I'm not sure that it falls within that rule. So how do we want to proceed?
It's that last sentence, correct?
Last sentence of the first paragraph under clinical formation.
I'm fine with just reading it.
Okay, so we can actually print out that last page and provide it to the state with
That
the
way.
defense's permission.
That's fine. Or should I just show it to her?
And I just want to be clear for the record. Your Honor has reviewed the other redactions and finds them appropriate. That was the clinical formulation was the most concerning part to the state, but because we usually don't see that extensive of redactions, I just wanted to be sure that, and that's fine if the court has made the evaluation that those are appropriate. I just want that to be clear on the record.
Ms. Hicks, do these other statements, are you wanting to lift redactions of these other statements as well based on what we've discussed this morning?
So section 3, the family and social information, those statements kind of deal with the arrest, when she was arrested. So, and we're being cautious in this case, given the unique circumstances of it.
How about the other statements?
Oh, sorry. The one in the history, the victimization history, we're standing by that redaction. We wouldn't, I don't know how to phrase this, but it gave us some concern that potentially could be issues in a trial, obviously.
But how is it a statement of a charged or uncharged offense under the rule?
Again, I'm pretty new to this case. I think if I'm correct as to what happened in Idaho, there may have been, plus can we maybe approach?
You may. Okay, so to be clear, and we're back on the record, thank you. To be clear then, in terms of what the rule permits for redaction, the court is allowing redaction, as counsel indicated, in terms of some language about an arrest and extradition, but other redactions do not appear to fit underneath Rule 11.4 and so should be lifted. So the state has a chance to review that. It's just a few sentences in a brief report. And so I hope that the state can do that and we can proceed this morning to prevent any further delay. Is that something we can do?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And the state doesn't need to review all the redactions in order to stipulate. I just, for the purposes of the record and so that we have the unredacted copy, if defense counsel can get that to us as soon as possible, we can still proceed today.
All right. So with that, are the parties prepared or willing to stipulate to the two mental health expert reports?
So I just want to make sure I will provide a copy where we can leave in the redaction on page 2, take out the other redaction, send that to the state, and then move forward. Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. And as far as stipulated a competency, just so that the record is clear, because again, we had filed to get out of here. We're here because the court placed her placed her in Rule 11 on its own motion. That's why we didn't fill out the form and have that prepared.
Right.
We do agree that there's 2 competent reports and would like to move forward, and we just as defense don't necessarily want to technically stipulate, but we will. Does that make sense?
Not really, no.
Well,
Because there's really only 2 avenues here to proceed. You can contest that she's competent and we can have an evidentiary hearing and you can present your evidence, or the parties can stipulate to the reports which do find her competent.
let me just say this. We are willing to stipulate. It's just, we want the record to be clear that we're here on the court's motion and not a defense motion. But we are stipulating a competency so we can move forward.
Right. But nothing in filling out a stipulation form would reflect that you're here on your own motion, or that you would agree with being in Rule 11. So that would be how I would suggest we proceed. Is that something defense is willing to do? All right. We've got stipulation forms in front of you in that basket right there. And so you can fill that out. The state's agreeing to stipulate to the reports.
That's correct.
Okay. The court is not yet in receipt, but will be in receipt of a stipulation as to the defendant's competency based on the written reports here by Dr. McGady, dated November 7th, 2024. Dr. Webster, dated December 2nd, 2024. Stipulation having been accepted, the reports having been considered, court finds the defendant understands the proceedings, is able to assist counsel in her defense. The court further finds the defendant competent pursuant to statute. It is ordered affirming prior release conditions, and we'll get you a new date in front of Judge Boreski so you can proceed in your case. Judge Boreski indicated he can get you in tomorrow at the earliest at 8:30 or 9 a.m. Does that work for counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'm remanding this matter to Judge Boreski's division. We'll set it as a status conference tomorrow. That's December 6th at 8:30 a.m. Anything further?
Not.
Your Honor, can we just have a moment to make sure that that works for the victims and next of kin?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Judge, I don't know what the order is, but we're ready on Lizardo number 19 whenever you are.
Okay, not ready yet, but we'll let you know when we are.
I know this one. No.
Tomorrow will work for everyone, so thank you.
We'll set it for tomorrow's status conference with Judge Boreski, 8:30 a.m. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, Judge.
Are you guys going to send that today? Yes. Okay.
When conditions get extreme, when you least expect it, when you need it most, the Fox 10 Weather
Right, hold
Experts
on.
app is there to keep
Still
you
going.
informed
Hold
and
on.
safe.
Let me shush it up. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. I don't, I gotta sit here and let it soak in. She's awful chipper, you know? Let me get through this ad and
With
come right back
interactive
to
radar,
the
7-day
video.
forecast, and hourly conditions. Download it today.
Hurry up. Okay, let me go back. Allegedly. Whoa. Okay. So like I'm reading it on AZ Family com, and it says, I'm not an expert at this, so I just, I kind of listen to what you guys have to say. I listen to what experts have to say. I listen to what was actually said, and then I kind of, that's how I learn. But so I'm going to read this article, and we'll just kind of go from there. But it says December 5th, 2024. And it says Lori Vallow walked into the courtroom smiling on Thursday morning as doctors deemed her fit to stand trial for her role in a Maricopa County murder. Vallow appeared, even though she said day bail, right? Vallow appeared in court waiting for doctors to make their assessment as she awaits trial for first-degree murder in the 2019 death of her ex-husband, Charles Vallow, in Chandler, and the attempted murder of her ex's nephew. No, that's not right. Of her ex-nephew-in-law, Brandon Boudreaux. 2 court-appointed doctors deemed Vallow competent, and the state had no objections, stating Vallow can move forward with her case in Arizona. The judge scheduled a status conference for Friday, tomorrow, at 8:30 a.m., but it's unclear if Vallow will appear in court then. The so-called doomsday mom was sentenced to life in prison for the deaths of her 2 children, 16-year-old Tylee Ryan and 7-year-old JJ Vallow in Idaho, and Tammy. The children's bodies were found on Vallow's husband Chad Daybell's property in June 2020. Lori Vallow's trial is tentatively set to begin on February 24, 2025. I thought it was vacated, but Jason was telling me this the other day. I was like, well, I thought they vacated it. And he was like, well, but if she's pushing through and since she waived her right to a speedy trial or whatever the hell, it seems backwards to me. The waiving the right to a speedy trial, it seems like she didn't waive her right to the speedy trial. Anyways, however it's supposed to go. Her speedy trial. And so it should end up being in or around February of 2025. So I don't know. Daybell was sentenced to death for the murders of Tylee, JJ, and his wife, Tammy Daybell. Vallow was found guilty of conspiring to kill Tammy. Well, no kidding. It's like they added it way back then. But anyway, so there's that. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Let's see. I want to go over the video again because that's just me. And Trace on the case went today to the hearing. So I asked her earlier if she wanted to come up and talk, but I wasn't able to see if she replied. So let me pull this up again. All right, let's go on through an ad. I hate ads. I hate ads. I pay premium just so I don't have to see ads, but this is on their website on Fox 10 Phoenix. So I'm glad that they provide that at least, though. I mean, come on. Here we go. Okay, now let me get back over there and fix my. Go ahead.
Pressure.
Yeah.
Both Trace and Megan are in the chat, and Megan had asked, "Are you ready for her to come up?" So you can invite her up when you're ready.
Yeah,
and also
we can.
Trace when they get ready.
We can do Megan first, and then Trace, or I don't know how to do it. I don't know, Megan. Let's hear from Trace first. That she was there, and she can tell us what her experience was being in the courtroom while Lori is there, and then Megan. That way, she'll have information from what Trace says too. I don't know.
Hey, Trace, does Trace have a link?
No, can you give her one?
Okay, I sure will.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I guess that's a good way to go. And I'm so grateful that Trace was able to make it there today. I think that's really cool. So anyways, how was your Thursday besides, being vallowed or day bailed, we should say day bailed. It's weird though. So there's another hearing tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning, but they're not sure if she's gonna be there or not. She sure seemed really happy to be there, you know? I was looking at that just now. I mean, just her walking in,
You're good.
smiles, and just happy.
Morning.
Good morning.
You're the victim of a
That judge right there, he talks awful fast. I was like, "Do I have the speed up?" And
speedy
I
trial to be present at court proceedings, to choose whether or not to be interviewed by the defendant or the defendant's attorney, to be heard.
he talks like a damn auctioneer. But, it seemed like her attorney today, even though it's the same one from last time, she wasn't talking all crazy into the microphone today. But, of course, this is a new judge right here, a different judge. I guess he was filling in for, the other one, Boreski. I think that's his name. Her toilet paper curls were extra tight today, right? Because she lives in La La Land, right? So what makes it okay? I mean, that's awful crazy to balance just in and of itself whenever you're asking if she's competent to stand trial. Sure. Yes, apparently she is. However, doesn't it kind of seem crazy to represent yourself? I mean, it's like, whoa, wow, both sides of the spectrum, you know? So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's one possibility. I don't think it would help her, you know? I don't know. Who knows what is going through her mind? Who freaking knows? But to think about like her, questioning Melanie Gibb, Zalima Pastenes, Audrey Baratero, remember her spiel about how even though Audrey didn't like talk about this or reveal this during the grand jury hearings and everything, that Lori said she was going to cut her up into pieces and she has enough bleach and trash bags. If that's even true, I really question it. These people are very questionable, but can you imagine like Lori calling Audrey up there and then like examining, you know what I mean? Like just questioning her. That's a little crazy. A little crazy. Or like my mom or AKA Rhonda, right? She calls her Rhonda. That's her zombie name. Oh my god, like, just thinking about that, it's like 2 different sides of this. It's like part of me wants to see her question her fellow conspirators, and then the other part of me is like, "Oh, no." Another thing too is, I mean, does this kinda scare the church a little bit? You know what I'm saying? It would scare me if I were the church and Lori Daybell was a loose cannon up on the stand, or, not up on the stand, but, in control of her own trial. Is Jason Mao gonna be subpoenaed? I doubt it because it seems like nothing was really collected on him for Arizona. It was more Idaho. What else? What about the bishop? I mean, Bishop Gabe Bonilla, he even called in, or the police called him. There's that body cam footage that was released of Lori and Melanie and Tylee going up to the police station, right, to report her purse stolen. And then, but when Uncle Charles was saying that Lori was being crazy, right? They called the bishop and he's like, well, she used the word destroy, destroy. And I'm like, oh my God. So will she examine or question him? It's crazy to even like think about it because it's polarizing in a big sense to me. Who wants I don't even wanna listen to her that long. I don't wanna listen to her at all. She doesn't add anything to the conversation, you know what I'm saying? She polarizes things, and she makes these like, in her, interview with Colby recently, but I'm so glad that he got that, though, because I'm telling you, it was, like, a way for me to, like, check the temperature, on where she's at on the scale of crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it offered some insight into what it's like in preparations for the 2025 trial, allegedly in Arizona. So, I mean, oh my gosh. What happens to the trial if she gets all delusional and over religious when representing herself? Will it be stopped or do they have a backup attorney? I think she has to have a second chair. I do believe there has to be one. Now, I'm not sure. Don't quote me. I'm not a professional, but I do remember hearing that, reading that somewhere along the lines. Hey, Mormon True Crime, I have my notification on for your live in 30 something hours. Okay, good. Trace is here. So let me pull her up. Let me take this comment down. Now, well, I answer it real quick from what I know with um, Daryl Brooks. That's the guy who like went through I want to say a Thanksgiving Day parade. I want to say in Minnesota. Not sure. Don't quote me. But he represented himself. And y'all, I didn't ever plan on watching that trial or, it came on and I couldn't look away because it was like a train wreck. And so whenever he got out of line, the judge would even put him in a separate courtroom with just microphones or and they would just push mute. I mean, he was so representative of what a sovereign citizen looks like and sounds like. And there's no reason at all. There's no reasoning with that kind of person. So, I mean, when you ask that, if what will they do? I mean, that's what goes through my mind of what they can do. And yeah. So, I mean, just what a loose cannon, just all the way around. I mean, that's a good question, though. It's one I have myself. Let me pull Trace up. Okay. And let me add her. Are you here? Yeah, you're here.
Hello.
Let me go fix the let me do this real quick. Audio avatar. There you are. Okay. What's up?
Can you hear? I have Caitlin with me right here. Hi, Krisha.
Hey. Hey
Can
everybody.
you hear
This
us
is Trace.
okay?
This is it sounds good. This is
Okay.
Trace. This is one of our moderators. She's been here for a long time and we love having her. But she lives around the Maricopa County
Yeah.
jail or whatever courthouse, and she went today. So she's gonna tell us about what she experienced today, and we appreciate it.
Well, and Sue Ellen was with us too, so Sus was with
Oh,
us.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
Suze.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Thank y'all.
Yeah. So it was really fun, and we weren't sure what to expect. So, and I have a friend who has some insight. So she told me which courthouse, I couldn't find that information yesterday, and which hearing and everything. So we were able to, go down there and get good parking. We weren't sure. So we went really early. And she had told me there's going to be a whole bunch of people there at 9 for a chapter 11 or
Oh
rule
yeah.
11 hearings. So she said, get there early. But Lori wasn't with the docket. Those other cases were a big old group, and they just call the names. She wasn't like that. So she is getting some special treatment.
Oh.
So she came in at 8:30. We saw some people go in. Justin got there. The camera people were the first ones. And then we went in and we were sitting. The commissioner came in. Then the attorneys started showing up. She was the very last one to come. She got there. She looked over at us because we sat right behind her. At first, I was like, yeah, I'm going to act like I'm just having a conversation and mention, oh, did you hear that Kresha had blah, blah, blah? I was just going to try and mention, but no, you don't do that because it's real quiet in there. You know what I mean? Nobody's
It's
talking.
been so loud compared to Idaho, though. There's always somebody like getting up and walking, and I'm like, what? Hey, there's a court hearing.
Well, okay, so get this. So there was us three. Justin was there with the two camera people. A guy sat behind us, and two others walked in that were writing, I think maybe reporters. And then two girls walked in that worked for the courts. You could tell that was it. That's all that was there. So,
Interesting.
but then she came in, she looked over at us because we were sitting right behind her. I think she didn't know, are they here for me? Or, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but she looked away really quick. So I wasn't sure if she saw the looks on our faces. But then
She
she
felt
kept,
them though. Trust
she
me.
what?
She
What?
felt them. That's how I feel. Like when I
Yeah,
saw
I think,
her after when her competency was restored in Idaho, I was there, mom was there, Larry was there, and I mean, she had to have felt my and
Yeah.
all the stares, all the throwing them eyes,
yeah.
I also just want to say that when I was there, you can really feel, sorry, this is Tracy's daughter. you can
Hey,
you can really feel the negative energy that comes off of that woman. And I was about to cry because you can just really feel her negative energy. It's something that's not uplifting to be around her. So,
she's an
you know,
energy vampire, huh?
yeah, and I was sitting there, and I just, all I could think about was JJ and Tylee, and look at this woman in front of me and be like, how could you do something like that? I just wanted to, like, oh my,
The dagger.
yeah,
I get it. I get it.
yeah,
I get it. It's polarizing for me even because it's like part of me, again, I'm mourning somebody who's still alive because the person that I knew as
Yes,
my Aunt Lori is no longer there, but yet she's still there.
right.
It's like, but then I also think like what your daughter said, how it's like, but you did this and this and this and this, and you're responsible for so much pain and loss, and it's so much to really take in or
It is.
express even.
But so when there's a big room on the side with glass, so you first see them come in there, and then the guy that was with her, waited to get some sort of clue from the judge and everybody that they were going to bring her, that they were ready for her. So you could start to watch her, and she knows that she is so disliked because there's that smile I just really felt was a nervous smile because she knows she is just, she's kind of looking around. I think she's a little paranoid because she knows that she's so disliked. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's good. I mean, there is a
or
little
just
bit of it.
misunderstood.
I think sometimes people can take, after seeing that grin today and watching her the whole time, not just when the cameras were on her, I really feel like her smile is a little bit more of a nervous smile than a stuck up
Mhm.
smile.
I do too. I do too. Because Lori always looked down her nose. I don't think it's like even intentional, like she's looking
Right?
down on you. I just think it's like just the way she always was,
Yeah.
I'll have to ask
Yeah.
Megan about that, but
Stu,
because I felt like her parents were the same way when I was in the same house with them for a weekend or so.
Suze is very funny because when we sat down, she started waving to the Zoom meeting camera and stuff, and I'm just like, Suze, I'm like,
Stop it.
sit down, you're gonna get us in trouble. And then
Oh
and then
my
she
god.
went over and talked to Justin Lum and told him.
She's like, I gotta go tell Justin that we're friends with Kresha. And I
Oh
still don't,
boy.
even after we were just talking about so much, I didn't even ever ask her what the whole conversation was. She was over there for a couple minutes.
And then we're out of the courtroom.
We're all waving at Justin.
And then Suze goes, and we'll go see you at the trial to Justin. And Suze goes, oh, and tells Lori, go back to prison, bitch.
Oh my god. I love Suze, y'all, though. I mean, she's just one of those. I mean, there's a lot of history there too, and a lot of connection, that
Yeah,
I haven't talked about a lot because, it's her story, not mine. But,
Right.
she had, oh, let's see, Suze has a daughter who is more or less not in the picture. It's estranged, but who worked at Life Academy And I mean, Sue's had a valid concern about whether, when Lori was using JJ's app to Life Academy and stuff, even after they were dead, she's logging into Life Academy app. And so Sue's had a valid concern whether or not, I mean, was she talking to her daughter? Was she not? Like what was going on there? And I really didn't have any answers for her. I never saw it anywhere, but valid concerns,
Mhm.
and so that's how we struck up a friendship. And I mean, I love Sue's too. That's where we're going to stay actually when we go.
Yeah, we,
Yeah.
we
So
had a we had a great time too. I mean, we all went out to eat afterwards, and then we went up
And we drove up South
we
Mountain.
went up drove up South Mountain and looked at the views and did a little hike and stuff. So
good.
we had a good time. I mean,
Um,
we made the
yeah.
best out of the day.
Yeah, we were coming
Well,
back from
good.
doing our little lookout, taking pictures, and she goes, "Thanks, Lori."
Right.
So
Right. I
thanks for
mean,
the
hey,
amazing day.
right. It's better than this happening and then not meeting amazing people. You know what I'm saying? So it
Oh
would really
yeah,
suck if it was just you had to deal with it, basically with yourself or with just your family. It's nice to be able to deal with it with other people from around the world.
yeah.
So I
So we
mean,
we are going to try and go back tomorrow. We had some plans, but we think we can fit that in before and on the way. We won't be able to take foods with us this time because we're going to be heading over toward the other side of Phoenix. So, but yeah, we're going to try and do that.
Awesome. That sounds great. And
So
I appreciate it. We appreciate you, doing that and taking one for the team basically and giving us some insight, being boots on the
yep,
ground.
yep.
Yeah, we don't
So,
hold back from giving her dirty looks the whole time though. So
hey, it is what it is. And I mean, she
It is
earns
what
she earned them. She's still
yeah.
earning them. I
yeah,
mean, I don't even know if she wouldn't have thrown her own daughter, who's also her victim, under the bus just recently.
I know.
Whenever she was talking to Colby, I don't know how I would like to know how I would have felt before, minus that, but I have nothing for her because she's still victimizing her victims, and I just feel like that's exactly what the hell she's gonna do with Charles.
Yeah.
That's what she does. That's what she did to Joe. It's what she's done continuously.
Mhm.
Ugh,
You know,
it's so gross.
Susan and I were kind of surprised. There was nobody. Her sister, nobody was there for her at all. Except her attorney. And then even on if you look over at one of the cameras, they show all of the people that are there,
Yeah,
like on the phone or
on the
whatever, and
desktop. Yeah.
you can see the first name and the last initial. And there were about 3 that I recognized, and then there were about 6 others. I don't know who those people were, but
Yeah,
they
I don't
weren't
know who
any
they are
Lori's
either.
family. None of Lori's
Yeah.
family.
No. No,
So
that's what I'm saying. It's so crazy how, again, it just seems like an image thing. Yeah, that's just how it appears to me. It just seems like, "Oh, we'll be there for image purposes
yeah,
only," but not actually. It kinda makes me wonder now that you're making me think about that. Uh, like, I wonder if that's how it was for her when she was growing up, were they
yeah,
only there for show? Were they Is it shallow, like everything else is,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
appears to
Yeah,
be. Kinda like, I don't
yeah,
know if y'all saw the pictures of, like, Janice, whenever she was coaching, I think, Summer and Lori, baseball or softball or T-ball or whatever it is, and she's, like, there in her shorts and her visor hat on, with her makeup and just I don't know, she looked like Peg Bundy a little bit, I'm sorry.
yeah.
But anyways, it's just all for show. It's all for, like, just appearances only, it
Yeah.
seems, but I don't know. I don't know. It just is interesting to me.
Because
I find it.
it's interesting that they don't speak out as if they're upset with her or anything,
No, and I
they're
don't
not
think
like
they are.
denouncing. No, they're not like
Actually,
denouncing her. Oh, I'm done with my sister. They don't do any of that, but yet they're not there either.
Right.
So,
Trey, okay, whenever in the FOIA docs, there is this exchange between Janice and Alex, and Janice is saying basically she's vouching for Charles. However, if you read and catch the little details now, like you see where she's basically saying that Charles is dark without saying it. She's like, he can't help it if the Holy Spirit isn't with him.
really,
And I'm just like, wow, there's that passive aggressive shit
yeah.
that is so it's deceptive because unless you really look into it, because it caught me when I've read it before. It didn't catch me, but when I read it again, I was just like, oh wow, there's that part. But she's like, oh, but he turned our phones back on, so everything's kosher, as long as it's for me, and
What can you give
it's
to me?
always
What
for
can you,
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that bothers me big time because it's like that's all he was a cash cow,
Yeah.
for their lifestyle, basically. So,
And
interesting. It's
one other thing I just wonder, because we know she wants to get out of here. She likes the heat, but not summers in jail with a swamp cooler, you know. So, and it is not a pretty jail down there. I've sent to our little chat all the lovely little tidbits of information that I find about the jail and stuff. So I really wonder if she just wants to get this over with. She's tired of attorneys saying that they need to catch up on it. So she's going to represent herself. And there was a case of the woman was Tiffany Moss, and she killed her stepdaughter. She didn't put on any kind of a defense. She didn't call a single witness. She didn't question anybody. And part of me wonders if she's going to just almost do something like that. She just wants to get this over. I heard that she can't plead guilty because it would mess up her appeals in Idaho. I don't know if that's true or not, but I just
yeah.
kind of wonder about that, you know?
I mean, she's an opportunistic person, so I mean, I just don't. It won't do her any good because she's got to go back to Idaho. I feel
Right.
like she does it. I feel like she likes Idaho better because it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I already had this vibe, but I think Mom told me this, that it's like they roll out the carpet more for her in Idaho, and I'm like,
I
well,
guess so.
Mormons are nice, I mean, and that's Mormon country, and I mean, it just seems like that. It seems like that would be the only thing, and maybe to be closer to her hubs,
Well, and I mean, these
Um,
are Sheriff Joe jails. They are not pretty happy places at all, you know,
yeah, it
rank
sounds
amongst
pretty
the
good.
worst. So I really wonder
Yeah,
if she's just going to do the bare minimum and maybe, but she doesn't appear comfortable talking in court,
no. I mean, I'm
you
like
know?
that when I first come on here. I'm so awkward. I'm just like, "Hey," and I don't know what it is. As soon as I push live, and then
Yeah.
I'm fine once I relax a little bit. That's just my anxiety. And so if it is a nervous, smile, laughter, those small talk, it's gotta be just a little unnerving. I'm like that everywhere and everything I do. So, I mean, I can relate to that. But, I mean, also can just see the claws come out when she
Well,
gets
that's
comfortable.
true. I mean, when she gave that one statement, her closing statement, and it was
Yeah.
just full of, so yeah, she could be very passive aggressive and
It's
be
not
very
very.
mean or take advantage of going up to your mom and,
Yeah.
just, you know.
Ah. But, I mean, don't think my mom's not aware of that,
Oh
And
yeah, no.
so
And your mom
and
at this
so, I
point,
mean, she's
the
gonna
way
be
your
doing some
mom
research
handled,
as to how to handle if this were the
yeah.
scenario, I do believe.
Well, and the way your mom handled what's his name? Chad's trial. I can't or Chad's attorney, I can't think of his
Yeah,
name. The way she
prior.
handled him, she's just like done at this point. She's done this too many times, and you're
Yeah.
not gonna mess with her, you know?
I mean,
So
right? It's so
yeah.
and that whole thing with Pryor about, questioning everybody or making the statement to everybody during Chad's trial, basically kind of bragging that Chad wasn't charged here in Arizona, although they recommended that he be charged, but they just found no likelihood of conviction. And I'm just like, and I was watching, it came on last night by itself, and I was like, oh my God. And it was, I forget who was even on the stand, but it was Chad's trial prior. And I mean, Chad, I forget who that was, but it's irrelevant. But the way that Chad kind of smirked, like, like I'm not
Yeah.
being charged in that. And I'm just like, ooh. I mean, I know, and and people who read the FOIA docs, they know how involved Chad was. And I think that's kind of crappy, you know?
So,
And then
so
how are they going to make this a conspiracy? Or are they going to do the whole dead conspiracy co-conspirator again? And
well,
so just two
what I
people?
don't understand is that those charges aren't conspiracy charges. They're murder
Oh, that's
charges.
true.
First,
They upgraded them.
they're first degree murder charges.
They weren't
Both of them.
always first degree, right? They were. Oh my God, I'm going to find that paper again.
I remember people saying that they were conspiracy even for Charles, but
Mhm.
I thought I remembered always seeing it listed on paper as
And we
first
did.
degree
You
murder.
sent that to me.
But I know they're that way
Yeah.
now, so I don't know. It's confusing to me. And then
I
here's
wanna know
something,
though.
here's something that I hadn't thought about. I don't know why in my brain I just assumed there would be one trial for both
Me too.
things. But then somebody today was mentioning two trials, and then I was like, well,
Why?
how would there be one or two? You know?
Yeah, I think there's 2. It
That's what
just
somebody's
doesn't make
saying
sense
because the
to me.
evidence would be totally different evidence. And so it only makes
Yeah,
sense that, hearing
yeah.
if you hear the Charles stuff, it would prejudice you for the other. So then I was like, oh God, two
We'll
trials. Oh,
we'll 404B it again. I know all about that now, you know? That's
yeah. I
nuts. It
I
really
don't know
is.
why I was thinking one, but
Let me
wow. So
Maricopa. I'm gonna try and pull that up if I can. What the Maricopa
yeah,
County had issued. Oh, I spelled it wrong. I put County County. Anywho, um, anything else?
I
Like,
no, I don't think. I mean, it's big down there. It's a big, it's just it's a
so
big complex. There's two different
oh,
towers. There's also a jail tower down there. We saw several buses coming in, dropping off inmates. Every time we saw one, we'd
mhm.
say, "Hey, Lori." Then we
Yeah.
saw five more. So who knows which one she was on? But
Yeah, you know that.
yeah,
The
Back to
other
her
thing
section.
the other thing I want to add is that when Lori, I think it was like 10 minutes into court, they started bringing a group of like inmates, men inmates into the room that Lori had came through to get to the
Oh,
courtroom.
Lord.
And so she was
Mhm.
looking over at them like, what are you doing? This is my trial kind of thing.
yeah, she was.
And it was like, and then they ended up telling the
They went and made them
inmates,
all
and then
leave.
they made all the inmates leave and go back until it was their turn
Yeah,
to come out. But it was just funny because it's like, they could stay there
Oh
and
my god.
intimidate you and watch you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you
you're
don't
not
have a right.
special, boo. You're not
Yeah.
special,
yeah.
right? And
She
the
thinks
fact that
she
she
is.
thinks she is
Yeah, she
interesting to
does.
me. That's what makes this so freaking unique, I think.
Yeah. So
Uh,
anyway, yeah, that's that. So
I
hopefully
found
we'll
it.
get there
I found that
tomorrow.
paper.
And
Okay, I found that paper for Maricopa
oh,
County.
did you?
Yay. Yeah. I'm gonna read it real quick.
Okay.
It says, and so this is a grand jury indictment. It was posted on June 29th, 2021. And it says it's from the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. It says Tuesday, June 29th, 2021. Grand jury indictment returned on Lori N. Vallow in death of Charles Vallow. On June 24th, 2021, a Maricopa County grand jury charged Lori N. Vallow with 1 count of conspiracy to commit
Weird.
first-degree murder, a class 1 felony dangerous in the death of Charles Vallow. The indictment states it says, quote, Lori N. Vallow on or about July 11, 2019, with the intent to promote or aid the commission of an offense to wit, I think, first degree murder. I think that says wit. Anyways, first degree murder, agreed with Alexander Cox that at least one of them or another would engage in conduct constituting the offense of first degree murder. On July 11, 2019, Alexander Cox, brother of Lori Vallow, called 911 and reported that he had shot and killed his brother-in-law, Charles Vallow. It also says Charles Vallow died at the scene of the shooting. Alexander Cox died in December of 2019. Quote, complex, difficult cases of this nature take time to properly investigate and solve. I appreciate the tremendous number of hours the dedicated officers of the Chandler Police Department have invested, and my office is equally committed to bringing those responsible for Charles Vallow's death to justice, stated County Attorney Alistair Adele. Remember her?
Oh yeah, I remember her. She's dead now.
Yeah. And there were some cases that got dropped basically under her tenure,
A
right?
whole
Under
bunch.
her.
A whole
Yeah.
bunch. Yeah. She never got them
As
filed, and
That's
yeah.
nuts too, because there's a whole other conspiracy going on right there now too.
Yeah.
Another one. As with any
Oh, is
charged
there?
crime, yeah. As with any charged crime, the county attorney's office is committed to ensuring the due process rights of a defendant while ensuring the rights of victims are protected and those who commit crimes are held accountable for their actions. They don't say in time. Just kidding. Please see grand jury indictment for additional details. Oh my God, I wish I had that. A charge in a crime is merely an accusation, and the defendant is presumed innocent and until and unless proven guilty, allegedly. Yeah. Oh, so that other one I was telling you, or that I just mentioned, was this. Where'd you go? I just saw it. It might have been when I pulled up did that other search. She's a Phoenix detective, and there's all kinds of stuff dropping around her. I saw a story on it not long ago, like maybe a month or so ago.
Oh wow, you have to send it
Um,
to me.
yeah, it's weird. I just Googled it
I
not
might have
Googled
seen
it,
a
but
little blurb about it, and then now aren't there a lot of cases that she
yeah,
testified in and stuff that are now in question?
yes. People are
Okay.
like, they got a murder conviction overturned. It's
Oh,
crazy. I'm like, well, that's where Joe Ryan's death occurred. So, I mean, okay, here she is. Her name is, I'm sorry, it doesn't give her name. It says the Maricopa County Attorney's Office is rebuffing a judge's request to notify defendants in past convictions that a leading Phoenix homicide detective had a history of misconduct and lied about it. That, I
wow.
mean, it shows a picture, but that's, it doesn't really say. Um, but yeah, I was like, wow, okay, well, that's interesting because that's where Joe Ryan's death occurred. And I mean, I don't know who has to do with what, I'm just
Right.
mentioning it.
And
So,
then I heard Megan say that it won't be Judge Boreski, which
oh,
I really liked him. He was very
me too.
competent. He didn't appear to care whether this was high profile or not. But I
I
heard, and
know.
I don't know whether she said his term ends in January. And I didn't
Mm,
know if he wasn't reelected. Maybe he didn't run again, or they switched, because I have a friend who's a Superior Court judge, and they switched their assignments every 2 to 3 years.
oh,
So
wow.
that,
Okay.
yeah, so
Keep it
that,
fresh.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you
So,
don't get all cold on a case or yeah. I mean, I understand
well, they
that.
switch them, like she's doing custody court right now. So
Mhm.
somebody that's doing criminal might be sent to custody court, or, family
Okay.
court, or civil
Yeah.
court, or, that. So,
Beach Bum says Florida rotates every years too. Every
yeah,
something years too.
yeah. So I was really bummed to hear that, because I thought he had been doing a good job.
Yeah. I mean, this judge right here said, now do you remember that? He said that Judge Boreski will hear this again tomorrow.
Yeah.
So he'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, Ashley. I didn't see
Apparently
this.
this
I'm sorry.
apparently this commissioner is the one that hears all of the Rule 11 cases.
Yeah. Okay. It's so different, even though it's kind of the same. It's just different, you know. I'm not used to seeing
Mhm.
all these different people. I don't even know really where to go. I feel
Right.
so lost with Arizona versus, you know, how
Yeah.
Nate was informed so much, you know, with the basically the case of interest, you know, because that's
Yeah.
really all that East Idaho News kind of does is really that.
Well,
And
Maricopa County
some other
is like
stories.
it's like the third largest
Interesting.
prosecutor office system in the country.
Huh. That's crazy. I
Hmm.
used to be so freaked out about it too, like, because I'm like, "Oh my god, they're so corrupt," you know? But then
Well,
I've
I'm sure
seen
there's corruption. I just haven't heard that
everywhere.
it's like with,
Besides Alistair Adele and, like, that chick that I was
right.
just telling you
I
about.
just haven't heard that it's with LDS specifically. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right, right, correct.
But
And,
yeah,
like, you know,
it's corruption.
there's that picture I have acquired of Jason Mount and the bishop Gabe Bonilla, and they are taking a picture with that Andy. He's a House representative, I think. Andy Biggs or
Yes,
Briggs.
yes,
Biggs.
yes. Oh
With
yeah,
Jason delivered a copy of his, you know, warrior book or whatever the hell it is.
yeah.
It's like, oh, that's awesome.
Oh, there's
Mhm.
corruption. Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Well, and there's,
Makes sense.
it's more so
Everywhere.
in the East Valley too, I think.
Huh.
Like Mesa,
Yeah.
Gilbert, that kind of,
Yeah. I think that chick just now I was telling you about, that officer, I think she's from Gilbert, I wanna say. I'm probably wrong. Look
No,
at
you
her.
could be
Yeah.
right. Now I want to look
But
into that case.
I know, right? I'm
Well, and
so
then there was
surprised. When inmates
that whole Gilbert Goons case,
yeah,
which
Lord.
I originally thought that they were mostly LDS kids. There were some LDS kids, but not the it was wealthy white kids is what it was. Some of
Yeah.
them were LDS,
Yeah.
but not
I
it
don't
it
I'm
wasn't a
welcome.
specific to LDS. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right, right.
So
So, I mean, that's so horrible what happened to that kid, man. Oh my
it is.
god. As
Yeah.
a parent, just period, that's some bullshit. Straight
Yeah.
up. Alright, well, Megan's here. Okay, cool.
Hi.
Okay.
I don't know if do you have any questions for Trace? Like, I don't know, because
Oh yeah,
when I'm not
Trace on the
talking, I think
case.
of
I
things.
saw that I thank you for coming over to my channel this morning and yeah, so I do have questions, but I feel like you probably have already covered a lot of things that I wasn't here for because I went ahead and played the hearing on my channel and did a little bit of um, just my thoughts on it before hopping over here because Kresha and I think we're creating our studios at the same time, planning to hop on at one, and I didn't know if I was coming on hers or she was coming on mine, so I ended up just doing my own thing, and now here I am. But yeah,
Okay.
I what I was saying on my channel is that it's really hard for me to see Lori and hear her voice, so I can't imagine what that must have been like in the courtroom. What were your impressions of watching her interact with her attorney?
Well, you watched. So the only thing
Yeah,
she said today was her name and her number or her date of birth.
yeah, her date of birth.
Um,
Yeah,
you know, they didn't really talk too much. Her attorney
yeah.
came in, everybody was there, the commissioner, everybody was there, and Lori was the very last one to come in. And so once she came in and sat down, they got started. So I don't recall there really being a lot of interaction between. Did you see it on the video?
Mhm.
Yes, I did. I see her body language. I see the way she walks in and out of the courtroom. She's very
Hmm.
flirty. Um, you know, it's hard for me because what I was saying on my channel is that like the Lily Vallow that I knew is not there anymore. She
Mhm.
is so delusional and so sick and so evil, but she looks and acts just like she did the last time that I saw her, you know?
Well,
So that's what's hard for me.
so here's what I was telling them earlier is that so you know, when you don't see just with the camera, so like the very first, there's this room off the side with these big glass windows, and they bring them in there. And so she comes in with a deputy or whatever, and then he doesn't bring her in until he gets the signal from whoever. So she's kind of over there, and she looked over, she saw us, she's scaling the room, but she appeared very, like it's kind of a nervous smile, but I think her anxiety level, she knows that she is not, you know what I mean? I thought it was a really anxious, like, kind of, everybody here hates me, kind of like she knows that, you know?
Yeah,
And
interesting.
so I kind of felt like it was less of, I mean, in a way, kind of a stuck up smile, but also a very nervous smile, you know, like she was trying to look at us to see, because we sat right behind her. So I think she was like, are they there for me? Or, you know what I
Well,
mean? So she kept kind
I
of looking.
guarantee you that she is, every time she's in the courtroom, I guarantee you she's scanning because she wants to know who's there.
Yeah.
And I think there are certain people that she's probably like nervous about seeing in the courtroom. So I'm sure, yeah,
That's
I'm
what I
sure
saw
she's
of her, was,
paying close
yeah,
attention.
very, very nervous was what I saw, you know, which good, she should be, you know what
She
I
should
mean?
be. Kresha, who do you think she's nervous about seeing?
I mean, I can only relate to like what I do. You know, when I push live, I don't know what it is, but something just goes, phew, and I'm just like, I get all awkward, and I'm like, "Dun, dun, dun," you know, and then I have to kind of relax, and then I kind of get into my flow. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
so that's just me, and I don't have any red rum charges or convictions or anything. So that's just a normal day. But I mean, so there's got to be some of that. But then if she was nervous about seeing anybody, it'd be Brandon, his wife, and probably mom and Larry, I would say. And they
Yeah.
have been there. They've been
Yeah.
known to pop in. So
Well, and I was telling them earlier, like there's over on the side, there's a screen. It's got 4 different things on it, and on there you can see everybody who's on there,
On
on the
Zoom.
phone or however they do it. I don't know if it's a video call or whatever, but you could see. I
remember
said,
that time? Remember that
"Shit."
time when my Aunt Susan was folding damn pants or something? Her like camera popped on, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my
She didn't
God.
realize like she's on the big screen
No, she's
Oh, that's
because
funny.
and I'm like, oh my God, how embarrassing. You
because
know?
in Judge Bareski's courtroom, there's a big, huge monitor where all the
Yeah.
people who are on Zoom can be seen on the monitor. And
And it
then
flips.
Fox 10 had its cameras in the courtroom. And so,
On
well,
there?
actually, I don't know if they did. This was the time where there was that controversy where somebody recorded it and then leaked it
Oh,
to the news station, right?
yeah.
Um,
You did a deep dive on that. So if y'all want to go check that out, check it out on Megan's
Well,
channel.
yeah, that
this
was an
time
interesting rabbit hole.
it had the first name, and then it just had the only thing like where there might have been a picture was just it had the person's initials.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I should read you the names and see if you recognize any of them, or I don't know if I should do that on the thing. Probably not on
Well,
the.
I'm sure that
Yeah,
it's
I can
so
text it.
yeah, before it was Krusha, it was your other aunt, right? And your mom that were on?
I mean, wait, today or
No.
before?
I mean
Oh, I mean,
before.
like I know that my Aunt Terry's been on before, but she like signed in under her granddaughter's name.
Mm.
Oh, that
And like
could
my
be
Aunt
people signed in
Susan,
under different names.
yeah, because she's older, you know, she's the oldest Vallow sibling or whatever. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it depends on your tech level. So I don't know. I don't know. But I did read the names that you sent, and the only,
You
you
didn't
know, it
recognize any of
didn't
them?
ring a bell with me now.
Yeah.
No,
And
there's
then,
one that seemed like it was my cousin, you know, like Uncle Charles's cousin, my second cousin.
well, and I'll tell you, I think there was the one, did you recognize there was Brandon and your mom, and the other one, did you recognize that name?
Yeah, there was one that I did recognize
Oh, I
as
think
being
another one.
the
It
second
wasn't a
cousin.
cousin. It was, anyway, I'll text you. But let me tell you,
Yeah.
so Megan, there was us 3. My daughter was with me and one of Crush's other friends. There was a guy behind us, an older man. There was Justin and the camera people. There was 2 girls that walked in later. They both had pads. I think they were reporters. And then there was 2 girls that walked in and they had their ID. They were just probably from the court. People just worked at the court, random, nosy kind of just wanting to. That was it.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was it.
So I will just say, people like Lori who are manipulators, who have narcissistic traits, are always nervous about being around the people who see through them. So
That makes
Kay
sense
is
then.
certainly that. Brandon is certainly that.
Yeah.
You
All
know,
of us are certainly that.
anybody who knows who Lori really is and doesn't buy her BS is somebody she would not want to see in the courtroom. So I guarantee you she is hyper vigilant about who is showing up to these hearings.
Yeah.
That's a
And
very
my
good
daughter,
take, because just how
my
she
daughter,
was with Colby, and she just was trying to like buy him. She
Yeah.
was trying to get him on her side.
Yeah.
Go
my
ahead, Deb.
daughter pointed out that she goes, Mom, she kept looking over at us, like trying to smile, like she could get, you
Win
know
you
what I
over.
mean? Like if she smiled enough at us, we might, be
Yep.
there for her or something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah,
That's
it's,
that's a good take.
it's so crazy to me to watch manipulators in action now that I know how to spot these kinds of behaviors, because that's exactly what she's doing. If she's smiling at you, she's trying to read
Mhm.
you. She wants to know
Yep.
if
Oh
you're going to
yeah.
smile back. She wants
Mhm.
to know if you're going to buy her BS. And
Yeah. If you're gonna welcome
if you
her,
don't
or
smile at her, then she knows that you know, and then
Yep.
she knows to watch out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
wow.
exactly. And then the other thing that really surprised me was I could see on that list, and then also who was there. There was none of the family at all, none whatsoever.
Yeah.
Does that surprise you,
Well,
Megan?
no. Do you think that Barry and Janice Cox are going to show up in public
Hell
to have
no.
people throw tomatoes at them? Absolutely not.
No, Barry's a spiritual giant, and yeah, no. Nope.
I thought maybe
Talks to her about on
Summer.
the phone.
I thought maybe Summer would be there. I thought,
No.
I don't know, maybe somebody that used to go to her ward, or I don't know. I guess,
That's a good
or
point,
even
actually.
I
Yeah,
just thought there
because
would be
that's what they
somebody.
do, right?
I just thought there would be somebody.
That's a
Well,
good
it's
point, yeah.
I'm going to be just a little bit snarky about
Mhm.
Mormonism here for a
Do
second,
it.
so I apologize if this offends anybody, but the Mormon MO would not be to show up at her court case. It would be to go visit her in prison, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
literally from the Bible,
Ministering.
Yeah. So I Mixed Spunkies, you're so funny. I hit the liker on both channels. Thank you. Appreciate
I
that.
like Mixed Spunky. I see him on everybody else's channel. I'm like, oh, look, Mixed Spunky.
But yeah, so to just briefly comment on like the family dynamic, what I predict is that I really hope that the prosecution calls Janice and Barry and Summer as witnesses.
You
I
want
really hope.
answers? I want answers. We want answers.
Because they were there. Lori and Alex went to Janice and Barry's house right after this, not right after, but later in the day. And they were all there together.
I feel
I
like she
want to
was
know.
aware.
I want to know what went on. I want to know what
Megan,
was said.
do
Yes.
you know who was at the dang pool party? Where are those people?
So I've heard that it wasn't actually a pool party, but that it was just like a family dinner or something like that. I don't know exactly what went on.
Right.
First of all,
They probably had the music going.
it wouldn't
You
surprise
know,
me if there was a pool party, because if there had been some kind of party planned in advance,
Mhm.
they would have just had the party and pretended like nothing bad happened. I mean, Lori was
that's a good
literally
point.
telling people that he had a heart attack,
Right,
So
right.
that wouldn't
And
surprise me at all. But also, I also would not be surprised if what people thought was a pool party was actually the family getting together for dinner or
See,
whatever, and there was loudness going on, because I'm fairly
it was
certain
a
there are
neighbor,
people yelling and
and that's
screaming.
on video, actually.
Oh, is
That's
it?
on video. Yeah, I'll have to find it because
There's
it's
so much stuff that I don't
old.
know about this freaking case.
There was a neighbor, and she was a young girl. I want to say Tyson, what's his face? Tyson True Crime or whatever, because he also went to Zalima's house. Oh, it
oh,
might
I
have been a
remember that
news
guy.
reporter. I don't
I
quite
remember that
remember.
guy.
Okay, if anybody has the video or has access to it, please send it.
Yeah.
Askmegan@gmail.com, MEEGAN, 2 E's, askmegan@gmail.com. I want to see it because I want to know what people are talking about. But the other thing you have to remember too is that at the Cox house, every party's a pool party because they have a
Sure.
pool.
Well,
And
that's what I was being in Phoenix. You know, if there would have been anybody, even if a couple people came over, in Phoenix, kids don't get any exercise except the pool. JJ would have had energy. Somebody could have taken him out in the back. Kids are loud.
right,
My neighbors have 2 kids in the backyard, and the whole sounds like the whole block is there. So
yeah,
I had always been
Yeah.
wondering who was at the pool party. Was there a pool party? You know,
And then when
yeah.
Colby was, Colby went, and I mean, he's
he
never
did
reported a
say
pool party, so he
he
did?
did say a pool party, didn't he? Didn't he
Oh,
actually
I don't
call it a
know.
pool party?
He might have. I don't remember. I
I don't
remember.
know.
Well, actually, no. I think that who I got it from that it wasn't a pool party was Colby. I think I was listening to his channel, and he said something about that there were people there, but that it was not a pool party. So let's just remember. Okay, there's Janice and Barry. There's Summer and her family. Summer has
And
3 kids, and
Melanie
then
Boudreaux was
there
there.
was
Was she there? Was she not?
there was Zach,
Tylee and JJ.
Tylee, and JJ. I mean, that's a big gathering of
Yeah.
people,
And they
so
would have had to take the kids out to the pool. Yeah.
I'm
Right.
sure the kids
So
would have been in the pool, and that
Yeah.
was a tactic where like, oh, we have something to discuss. The kids can be in the
Kids go in
pool.
the pool. Yeah.
out of our hair.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm
I
glad I
just
brought that
don't.
up and asked you.
Me too,
Yeah.
because it's been a very popular question over the years.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's just the audacity of some things, and so sometimes things can
Yeah.
appear as one thing, and maybe it's both.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Both things can be true, right? It's definitely
Mhm.
possible. Like, but what was the date? It was July 19th, so it's not like there would have it wasn't anybody's
11th,
birthday. There wasn't a
July
holiday.
11th.
So July 11th, you're right, of
Yeah, I was like,
19. Yeah, 29 July
sorry.
11th, 2019. But yeah, so
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been, and I don't know what day of the week it was. Do you?
Thursday.
I
She
don't
was
remember.
supposed to be working in the temple. That's how I know that.
Hmm.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, it's just every time I hear something like that and 2 pieces click together for me,
Mhm.
it just makes me angry all over again.
Mhm. Yeah.
It makes me so angry. So angry. Like when I was a true believing member of the church, I went to the temple pretty often, and my parents were temple workers. Also, Janice and
Like
Barry
Tom
were temple
Harrison?
workers.
So is Tom Harrison. So is Tom Harrison.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But so okay. So people understand if you're not a member, you don't understand the importance of it. The temple is not a regular church building. It's not open on Sundays. People go
You have
there
to have a
during the
card.
week. It's what?
You have to have a card,
You
or
have to
you
have a card.
temple
I
worthy.
wish I had my little card here, but it's not here. It's with my other Mormon stuff that I pull out from time to time when I do an episode on stuff. But it has a little barcode on it. You have to pass a 2-step interview process to get the card to be allowed to go into the temple. You're not allowed to go in there without a card because it's too sacred. Not secret, sacred.
Mormon
And so,
question. Do they would so I mean, how I see it, how I think it would be is that the church keeps records of who goes in and out and how long one would stay there. I would say, I would think by
yep.
the number of times they scan their card. You know what I'm saying? That's how we
Yeah.
got temple records in the trials. So
Right.
wouldn't they be able to see that someone is going extremely excessive?
Yes,
Like,
this is a good question because and this has come up on my channel before too. Excuse me, sorry. So going back to like the temple is only open during the week, right? And people go there to do ceremonial things. I don't want to get into all that right now. It's a
sacred,
rabbit
yeah.
hole for another day. But in order to work in the temple, you have to be asked by the temple leadership. So here's where it gets a little bit weird. What? Weird in Mormonism? What? So you have a church congregation, right? Which is where you go every Sunday.
Mhm.
It is your regional area. There is a bishop who's in charge of the congregation, and he has 2 counselors. So those 3 people are in charge of making sure everybody in their congregation is well taken care of and running the church and whatever. Then there are several congregations that make up a stake. So this is the local level. The stake is like the regional level, right? Then several stakes make up a temple district.
Okay.
So you go
I'm
to
gonna have
the
to write this
temple
down.
that is closest to your regional area. So we have a
Mhm.
temple here in San Antonio. There are like 4 temples within spitting distance of Lori's house in Gilbert.
Right.
So you are supposed to, so sorry, I'm getting a call. I'm so sorry. Okay.
Uh-oh.
No, it's okay. I don't need to get it or anything. I just need it to not make noise. Okay.
Oh
So
my God.
in a place like Arizona, especially where Lori was living, where they have several temples that are close by, like within 15 or 20-minute drive of each other, you're supposed to go to the temple where that's your regional temple, right? The one that's in your temple district, but you don't have to. So you can go to any temple you want to. So it's entirely possible that Lori was going to different temples. And the
Oh,
thing
And there
is,
was
wow.
like,
that one that was shut down, by the way, because it was rededicated. I want to say it was
The
the Mesa
Mesa.
Temple.
Yeah.
yeah, they were renovating it. So the people who work in the temple come from all these different congregations in the region. So it's very possible to work in the temple and not personally know the people that you're working with. They also have shifts in the temple. So like you'll go to work your shift and it's only a few hours long. Like let's say you go from 8 to noon in the morning. So there's like a whole schedule. There are lots of temple workers. If you can imagine, it's like a Chick-fil-A. And if you always work on Tuesday mornings, you're not going to see the people who work on Friday nights. So that's the
Right.
way that it is in the temple. So Lori may not have, when she was going to visit the temple as not a temple worker, just to go, she could have gone to any one of those temples that she wanted to, and the people probably wouldn't have recognized her.
Would she have
So
worked at the different temples or just one,
no,
right?
she would have worked at just one. So those people would have known her, right? But
Right.
But you also have to remember that there's this sort of unspoken thing in Mormonism that if you Mormon harder than other Mormons, it's seen as a feature, not a bug. So
Right.
if she
True.
was going to the temple every single day, even if she was seeing the same people every time, they would be thinking to themselves, wow, what an
Good thing.
Mormon
amazing
harder than
woman.
her.
What an amazing woman that she's coming here every single day, that she feels like she needs to be here every day. It's like the Catholic moms who go to mass every morning,
Right.
right?
There you go.
So yeah, it's weird. I would have thought that it was weird. And when I saw that social media post that Janice made on Instagram where she said that Lori was going to the temple every single day, I was like, her? Because I had never considered Lori to be that religious before. She really wasn't. Like she was
Wow.
a cafeteria Mormon. I mean, we all kind of are cafeteria Mormons, but she was one
Ooh,
of those people that checked all the boxes as long as people were looking. And if nobody
this
was
is
That's
looking,
right.
how Brandon Boudreaux explained that about Melanie too, whenever he
mhm,
testified,
yep,
Yeah.
that she really wasn't into it. He had to talk her into it. So
yeah,
it's like, what the hell happened?
Now, Megan, I have a question.
yeah.
So,
No.
without getting into all of the different ceremonies and stuff, if you are just going there randomly, is there genealogy and stuff there too?
No, so the genealogy libraries are in the ward buildings, and you can do all that
Oh,
stuff
okay.
online as well. But what you do is you take your genealogical research that you've done and you bring the files to the temple. So
After your
you
angels do
could
it.
so I want people to understand Mormons believe that in order to get into heaven, you have to be baptized with somebody who has the proper priesthood authority, and they believe that heavenly beings visited Joseph Smith and literally laid their hands on his head and gave him the proper priesthood authority. They believe that when Jesus died and all the apostles were killed, that there was no more priesthood on the earth. They believe that that Jesus and other angels came and appeared to Joseph Smith and restored that priesthood that was gone after all the original apostles were killed. So Mormons believe that they are the only ones who have the authority to baptize people for real, you know? So it's like, even if you were baptized in another faith, when you join the Mormon church, you get baptized again because now it counts, right? So
Yeah.
they also believe that people who died without being baptized can't go to heaven unless someone gets baptized on behalf of them. And so a lot of what goes on in the temple is doing baptisms for people who have already died. And there are other ordinances that Mormons believe that you need in order to get into heaven. One is that sealing ordinance of like saying the words of like, you're now bound for time and all eternity forever. They believe everybody needs that too. And so they'll be doing that work for dead people. So when you go through the temple the first time, you go and you make promises to God for yourself. When you go through subsequent times, you take a name, somebody's name, an ancestor's name with you. And they say, like, if I was getting baptized for my ancestor, you know, let's just say my grandma Noni Novell, I would get in the water with the priesthood leader, and the priesthood leader would say, Megan Connor, I baptize you for and in behalf of Novell Connor, who is dead. And then I would get dunked. And then I would do another name. And you would do like 10 or 15 names. So that's what's going on in the temple.
Are you serious? You get dunked over and over and over?
Kylie would do this with her. Yeah.
So when you turn 12, you can go to the temple to do baptisms for the dead. And so that's the youth would go once a month or so and go do baptisms. And when my kids went, you know, they would go, you'd get dressed in the, you know, in this white jumpsuit, and you would go and just hold your nose and get dunked 10 or 15 times.
So do you think that's a lot what she was doing? Can you go in, like, if there's other different kinds of ceremonies, can you just walk in on somebody else's ceremonies, or?
No,
Not just ceremonies, though.
Yeah, so they have
right?
what's called an endowment session, which is the session where you make promises to God and you get these blessings, right? That's the main ceremony. So there's baptisms, there's the endowment ceremony, and then there are the sealing ceremonies. So they have different rooms for all of this. So the baptismal font is on one side of the temple, and then there are dressing rooms for people to get changed in, and then there are 3 rooms for the endowment ceremony, the last of which is the celestial room. It's like the big pretty room that you always see the pictures of. And then off to the sides of those rooms are sealing rooms, and that's where people do the sealing ceremonies. So the endowment ceremonies have a specific time. They usually like you to register, especially if it's a smaller temple, because they only have so many seats, but there's usually plenty of room. So you know what time the sessions are happening at your temple. But if you go at, you know, just a random time, you can go and say, I'm here to do sealings. And if I, as a single woman, go to do sealings, they'll find some other single man who can do the sealing by proxy with me. And then we'll go into a sealing room and get sealed for people who were married, you know, while they were alive, but are now dead. So for example, you know, if my grandparents, you know, obviously were married, but if they weren't members of the church, I could take both of their names to the temple. I could stand in for the woman. My husband could stand in for the man, and we would perform that sealing ceremony. So when Lori talks about that people are busy in heaven, this is the work that they're doing, like helping people find their ancestor's name. That's what she means when she says they're busy.
That also comes from Julie Rowe. I mean, that's Julie Rowe has talked about that. Julie Rowe has also talked about basically how Lori said that her children, JJ was her, you know, a grown man or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, Mormons also believe that when you're resurrected, that you get resurrected to your most perfect bodily form, whether that was like at age 25 or age 30 or whatever. So they believe everybody in heaven,
right? In a past life. Or
no,
is it the maturity of the soul?
I never heard that about past lives, but I'll explain that in a second. But Mormons believe that when you get resurrected, that your body is going to be perfect. And so it's like, there's this sort of dumb idea that's like, whenever I was the skinniest and healthiest is what my body's going to look like when I'm in heaven. And they
Alright.
Wow.
literally believe that disabled people will not be disabled in heaven, that like they'll get a
So,
perfect body, like that's their
I mean,
reward for going through
so
life
so
disabled.
basically, so
Wow.
JJ will not have his disability, and
Yep.
JJ, how is he gonna be an adult if he was never that in his life? You know what I'm saying? Because he wasn't
He
allowed that.
will be as he would have been in his adult form.
Oh,
Because
that's
Mormons
so
believe
out
that like
there.
all spirit, like we were all spirit children before we came here.
Mhm.
And then it's exhausting talking about this
I
stuff because it's
know.
so
I'm
ridiculous. Anyway,
sorry. Yeah.
no, it's okay. I just have to sigh sometimes. I actually like being able to talk about it because people need to know. People think that
Yeah.
Mormons are just like, okay, first of all, members of the church, for the most part, are just really good people trying to live their lives. Most
I
of them,
agree.
like probably 95% of them. And
Yeah.
then there's this other 5% that gets attracted to the church because manipulative people are attracted to manipulative
Mhm.
organizations and they benefit from them. And so there's that 5% of people, and it's a speculative number, guys. Please don't hold me to it, right?
Right.
Yeah,
But
no.
it's that small percentage of people that take advantage of institutional narcissism
Yep.
because it benefits them. And so, there are lots of people who like being in the church because it makes them feel powerful and in control. And I think Chad definitely is one of those people. Anyway,
Oh, wow.
Mormons believe that we were spirit children, that we came here to get a body, and that when we die, we will be the same way we were before we came here. But when we're resurrected, our spirit and body, of course, comes together. I think that's a pretty universal Christian belief, right? But they
Wow.
believe it's going to be a perfect body at the age at which we were
Perfect.
the most perfect, not the age at which when we die. Like, I don't know what other Christians believe about what the resurrection is going to be like, or like how old you're
Um,
going to be when you get resurrected, but I'm pretty sure other religions don't really think about this crazy stuff.
It's like
I don't think they think of
micromanaging. It's so, I've seen this for myself with my own 2 eyes. I've read it. I've been on these forums, these blogs, and they're talking about which kingdom they're gonna be in, who they're gonna be able to go minister to, what other
Mhm.
kingdoms, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, this is so sad." It
I
is
grew up
so
in
it's ridiculous and sad.
I grew up in
It
just a first Christian church, and I don't think we really thought about the age, but we were told that you will get a perfect body. If you had a body with illness or you were in pain or any of that, that you would get. I had never really thought about if you were disabled, would that mean you get you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
there was that assumption of, yeah,
You
you
just
will
made
have a
me think
perfect body.
about you made me think too just now, like, just bringing that up. I
Hmm.
remember learning or hearing, and I mean, I was raised Catholic, but basically, you're not even gonna have a body, you're just gonna be souls, and then you're not gonna know mother, father, sister, brother. Everybody is just your sister and your brother. So whatever,
Yeah.
that could just be
Yeah.
unique to this
Yeah,
situation.
I have heard people say that before, that like whenever
Mhm.
I talk about eternal marriage, and some people have commented before
You're
like,
not married married.
"Oh, we're not going to be married in heaven. We're just going to all exist as a family or
Yeah.
whatever." Anyway, yeah, it's mind
You
numbing.
know what?
Right.
I
I forget where we were going with that because what were we
well,
talking about?
The temple.
I really appreciate it because all this time I have been wondering what the hell was Lori doing down there all the time. So now I really appreciate that because I have a feel now for what
Yeah.
kinds of things she was doing down there.
Right. And just so that you're aware of what is normal, or I guess there's nothing normal in Mormonism, but what
Normal
is
for that.
what the regular expectation is, that they sort of suggest that if you are worthy, meaning that you have your Mormon card, that you go to
You
the
pay your
temple
tithing.
at least once a month. So for
Oh,
Lori
okay.
to be going every day was very unusual. I don't know anybody else who goes every day except for little old ladies who don't have anything better
Enough
to
to
do,
do.
and their job
Um,
is to be a temple worker, like when
Mhm.
my parents were temple workers, they had a shift once a week. And so if Lori was a temple, actually, Lori was not allowed to be a temple worker. So I don't know if she actually was, because you can only be called to be a temple worker if you have no minor children at home.
Now
So
Zach
Oh,
Cox said this, so You know, and I'm trying to remember where else, but, you know,
I think
I'll
I
put a tab
honestly,
on that.
I would be really surprised if she was a temple worker, and I would not be surprised if she told people she was a temple worker because that's kinda clouty, you know?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
Ooh.
working on the ward level is an honor, working on the stake level is like, "Whoa, you must be really righteous," and working at the temple is like, "Whoa, you really must be righteous," because like, you're in the most sacred place all the time, so you have to be really, really good. But the truth
Wow.
is that is not the case all the time, obviously.
Wow.
Wow. So I sent Megan a PDF that I had downloaded in 2020, and it's from nofearpreps.com, which is Michelle McDermott. That's that whole, you know, prepper website. And so I was looking at just in the first like 5 pages I read the other day, I'm like, oh my God, this is like the most accurate. I'm still waiting. Like I still haven't gone through the entire thing, but I'm still waiting to find the damn chart, to find the scale, the light dark scale rating system or something. I haven't flipped through it all. But
Well,
I mean, they're talking about what evil spirits can do, what they control of your body, your mind, your soul, all these things. And I'm just like, this is so close. If it's not, because I mean, these are the same people they would, you know, Chad would talk on the same circuit with.
yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, it's so crazy.
Yeah, so Kresha, when
Just
you
what I
sent
read.
me that, so I had jury duty yesterday, and
Oh,
I opened that document, and right away I was like, "Okay, I wanna know who this guy is." So I started looking hi
yeah,
I started
Gillespie.
looking him up, and I never got a chance to actually read the document,
Yeah,
because I
I
ended up
can't
getting
wait.
released early, but,
Yeah,
and I just never got back to it. But I believe that the light and dark the rating system, I think is purely Chad, 100% Chad.
you think
But I
so?
would be curious to know if other people have adopted it or have, adapted it to fit their particular brand, you know what I mean?
You don't think Tom Harrison because of the allegations or the rumors that he's doing this with missionaries or possible missionaries, you know?
Potential missionaries. Well,
Potential, there you go.
I was able to verify that as recent as 2023, he was still on the
Mm.
missionary committee. So he was most likely determining where missionaries would serve based on their mental health. And from the lectures that I've listened to of Tom Harrison, he absolutely believes that he has the ability to tell how righteous or unrighteous a person is.
I have another shocking
Absolutely.
thing to tell y'all.
Oh,
This
no.
morning I was, well, I mean, it
I
just
better get my
really
drink.
corroborates. Get your damn drink. So I was, I had downloaded something. I downloaded all kinds of things, y'all. But this was a paper that somebody had written up. And anyway, so I have it on my Speechify app. So it was just reading to me and I was following along, right? And they got to a part, they were talking about the white horse prophecy, which I mean, I've always been told or read that that's been debunked basically. Even Leah Satili was like, no, basically saying that it's been disavowed, yada, yada, yada. But there's this
There's
whole
another one of
thing,
those temporary
the
commandments.
double speaks. Yeah, it's double speak where it's just like, well, on the other hand, though, but what just struck me was whenever it read over the part about what the white horse prophecy was, it was talking about Mitt Romney, and it was talking about how basically the one mighty and strong or the Davidic servant, you know, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
in the future that's supposed to, you know, happen and be another prophecy basically fulfilled um towards the end times, you know. So but whenever they said, and I mean, I've gone and read about the white horse prophecy. I've gone and done all this a long time ago though. So it's like when I reread or hear something again and I'm just like, holy crap. So knowing that Ken Krogh and Tom Harrison allegedly, according to the civil and federal lawsuits against Tim Ballard, where they disclosed the priesthood blessing, which is so interesting to me, so interesting because they write it up. So they actually had their hands probably on his head, unless they did a Zoom blessing, you know,
Yeah.
like Alex received from Chad Daybell. Just saying. But
Just put the phone on your head.
yeah. Oh God. That's a whole nother, oh my God. I didn't even think about that. So, but in this blessing, they disclosed that Tim Ballard was going to be a future president of the United States and prophet of the Mormon Church. In the White Horse Prophecy, it says that the Davidic servant, the one mighty and strong that is supposed to happen, and where the Constitution is hanging by a thread, and Mormon elder will write in and say it the damn day, is going to be the president of the United States and the prophet of the LDS Church. And I'm just like, So were they they were, according to this and according to the blessing, they were prophesying for Tim to basically fulfill end time prophecy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
it
I
threw
knew
me.
about that because that came out during the whiteboard meeting stuff that happened. And there sort of is this conspiracy idea that the Mormon Church was trying to distance themselves from
I'm gonna say Manchurian Candidate much.
Yeah, basically, that they were trying to distance themselves that they're trying to appear more mainstream so that other
Yes.
Christian religions will be more accepting of them. And there's some evidence that they are doing this actually because
That
they're
trend
bleeding
is up.
members.
Yes, and that's somebody who's not, I've never been Mormon, but I've been following this movement indirectly, like not looking for that.
Yeah.
However, I've noticed the theme big time.
Yeah.
Because these
Well,
are the same people who were able to put Moroni on Boy Scouts of America, you
right.
know, you use their brand, and the Catholic Church couldn't do that, but the
Right.
Mormon Church could
The
cross
Mormons
brand.
gave more money.
Yes, that, and they were able to use it as a tool to draw new members to the church, to the
Yeah.
covenant, so to
Yeah,
speak.
and so
Name.
there's this conspiracy theory, which I don't think is that outlandish, that the church was trying to sort of de-Mormonify some of their literature and stuff like that. They have gone into Google Maps now and changed all their icons to crosses from Moroni's. They're not Moroni's anymore. They're crosses now, and crosses have never been used in Mormon
Why?
whatever. And also, the last time I said this, somebody called me a lazy learner, probably a Mormon, and said that they actually did use crosses as iconography back in the 1820s. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
That was
care.
so last
Let me
century.
let me just say this. Mormonism, the Mormon Corporation has a history of saying one thing and doing another.
Yeah.
And it started with well, I don't know if it started with polygamy, but this is a huge example of it, right? They issued a manifesto denouncing polygamy so that they could become a state and so that the United States government would get off their
And I
back,
think
right?
they were like this.
Yeah, and then they were like, by the way, guys, if you want to still practice polygamy, in fact, not even if you want to, like, go to Canada and Mexico and keep practicing polygamy.
Mitt Romney's family went there.
Yep, my family was there. Then I have a picture of my fourth great grandfather wearing a prison suit because he and a bunch of other people got arrested for polygamy. He was my fourth great grandfather was a pretty prominent Mormon. Anyway, I'm related to all kinds of polygamists, so I got to be really careful about who I date. Let's just say I would never date anyone in Mormon land. Anyway, where was I going with this? Okay, so they secretly were practicing polygamy still in Mexico and in Canada, and then when I forget who it was, you guys, I'm sorry, my brain is devoid of some information. They were confirming somebody to a position in the government. George Fielding Smith, Joseph Fielding Smith. I can't remember. Anyway, they were like, okay, if we're gonna put you in this position, you have to like really, really double dog dare promise that you guys are not practicing polygamy. So they had to, like, he swore that they weren't doing it, even though he was married.
Did they swear on the Book of Mormon?
No.
Did they raise their arm to the square?
they probably did raise their arm to the square and swear on the Bible, but that version of the Bible is not the most correct version. So probably it's like
And
doesn't count.
exactly.
No backsies.
That is so
Um,
narcissistic all in of itself right there, I swear, just
Yeah.
it's not good enough, so, yeah.
Yeah, so they had to issue another manifesto that said, "This time, really, we promise. This time, really, we're not practicing polygamy." At the same time as, like, I'm in this house with my wife, and my other 2 wives live across the street. You know, like, that's how
Hashtag
that
bleed
was
the
going.
beast.
So is anybody
Um,
surprised when the Mormon Church says something, and then we find out later that it's not accurate? You know, like, this is the way
Right.
that
Whether
this is the way they've always operated.
That's yeah, and I mean, they exhibit that to me, like, I've found more proof, not even looking for it, that they continue just doing whatever the hell they want, whenever they want, versus not, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm just like, "Oh, well, if they're gonna do that about that, then, you
The
know,
reason that
the
they do
integrity
whatever
is
they
gone."
want is because they really do believe that they're out here saving humanity, and they justify whatever they're doing by saying it's for the greater good, it's for the long term, and that at the end of the day, when Jesus comes again, everybody's gonna know the truth that we were right, and they're gonna see what we did as benevolent and kind and not as backstabbing and whatever. So this idea of institutional narcissism, like, think about it. If the church was a person, what would we call them? We
Uh-huh.
would call
That's
them a
exactly.
crazy, delusional narcissist because they believe that they're better than everybody else,
Oh,
and they do
man.
whatever they want with impunity because they have so much money and because they think that they're doing what God wants them to do, and they think that everybody's gonna thank them in the end.
Yeah, no.
um,
So to
I've
Hughes
actually
posted
compared
this
them.
comment that says, "My family by my daughter's marriage make me feel so sick and sad and alienated."
Sorry.
You're the healthy one, Hughes.
Oh, hey, Hughes. Yeah, I
um,
just found that one. I don't see it. Hughes, where you at?
Oh, it was way back. It was way
Okay,
back.
okay, okay.
It was like,
Well,
I don't know,
you're more
30
than
minutes
welcome
ago.
here. So, you're more than welcome here. And, you know, here in this space, so, uh, not judgy at all. I
Yeah,
mean, except for what Lori and Chad did.
yeah.
I'll never get it, and so it's like, okay, until you start killing people, and not just killing people, but when you start killing my family, then I'm just like, "Well, you stepped on the wrong hooker's toes, okay? Because here I am."
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
I didn't choose to be here, you didn't choose to be here, this is just where we ended up, and so we're making the best out of it, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. So I forget what question I was initially answering, so I apologize for going down that whole rabbit hole, but I think it's important for people to understand what it means when we say that she was in the temple every day, and that that wouldn't have been a red flag to anybody, even if they did notice, which they probably didn't. And this is, like, getting your Mormon card, passing that two-step interview process, like, we heard Lori say that she told the bishop she was either needed a temple recommend or she was going to kill her husband, and the bishop probably thought to himself, wow, she's really angry, but she wants to go to the temple, so let's help her do the right thing and give her a temple recommend. And that recommend is good for 2
Uh-huh.
years, and you don't have to go back through the interview process for 2 more years. And then when you do, you don't have to tell the truth. And if you believe
What
that you're a
do you
goddess
know
and everything you're doing is what God told you to do, you don't have to share that with the bishop because he's beneath you.
That's true. Do you know if Charles was a temple recommend holder?
I don't believe Charles
Or
ever
how
went
would
through
you
the
know?
temple. I
I
don't
don't
think
know. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's a big deal in Mormonism. You can't go until you've been a member for at least a year. And
He
I
said
don't
he was a
remember.
priesthood holder
Yeah,
to in one of the conversations in the text
right.
now, and so I'm just trying to figure it out from that.
So he would have been, I don't remember what year he was baptized. 2000.
2006 is when they got married, so, I don't know either. And he was
Yeah, I
paying
don't.
tithing. He was paying tithing
Yeah, so he would
have
have been
receipts.
allowed to be a priesthood holder for sure. Like, he would have gotten baptized, and then they would have probably given him the priesthood pretty soon after that. And he
Ah,
could hold callings and everything, but going through the temple is a big deal. It's making promises. You have to wear the magic underwear. So I don't know. I
no, my
mean,
mom did say she saw his underwear one, oh my god. I think that might have just,
They're
answered
like
the question.
they're
Maybe
like
I'll have to ask
boxer
her
briefs
again.
that go down to your
She
knees
made fun of
and
them. She
a
was like,
white
"Oh my
undershirt.
god." Yeah, she told me that, so I'm gonna ask her again to corroborate that or not, because that would tell us. I mean, at that time, at least, and maybe I don't know, I'll probe a little bit more, but
Yeah.
there was something else I was about to ask.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, because I grew up in a town with a lot of LDS people, and I remember, so you hear things that you never know, but I remember somebody telling me that, like, when you have your garments, you have to, like, bathe, like, you bathe one half of your body by keeping your arm in one garment, and you have to, that, not true, that you
No.
never
No.
are allowed to take them fully off.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's an urban legend or if that's the way it was, like, when my parents were coming up, because I've
Okay.
heard that too. I've heard that you were supposed to, like, leave one part on even when you were having relations. So I,
Oh, gosh.
I don't know if if I know the showering thing is probably not true, although, guys, again,
Okay.
it's Mormonism. It could be. But when I went through the temple, I was told that you're supposed to wear the garment day and night, and that you're not supposed to look for an excuse to take it off.
Even during
But
relations.
that it was okay to take it off for certain things, like they mentioned sports, sex, and swimming. That was when it was okay to take
Um,
it off. And then you were
that's why
supposed
Janice
to then
swam a
you're
lot.
supposed Yeah. I think you're right about that, Krusha, actually.
Oh.
But it was like you were supposed to, when you were done swimming, you're supposed to put your garments on as soon again as you could, right? Alexander Lamar Cox shows no LDS ordinances. He went on a mission, so he would have gone through the temple for sure
Whoa,
before
and
he
I
went.
have look, I listened, re-listened to Zach Cox's interview with Justin Lum the other day, just
Mhm.
right before I came on or something, and in there, he said that and it threw me, he said that Alex told his bishop what Lori was saying about her being a translated being and whatever, and I'm like, "How? He was excommunicated, right?" That kinda threw me, so I'm like, "Whoa, what there's something
Yeah.
there, or not, or
So,
something."
okay, Alex was excommunicated twice. And
Yeah.
when you are so you're supposed to go to the bishop and confess your sins, right? And according to Adam and Rex, I did listen to a couple of their podcasts, but the
I
one
do.
about Alex in particular, they said that Alex was the kind of person who could not, he felt so guilty about things that he did that he would go right to his bishop, which
Mm,
I partly believe that.
allegedly.
I think it
Allegedly.
was more of a situation of, like, he would do whatever he wanted for, like, months and months and months and months, and then he would grow a conscience for a day and be like, "Oh, I should go tell
Gotcha.
my bishop."
That
Right?
makes sense,
So then he
you
would,
know?
like, unload on his bishop, and his bishop would be like, "Well, we gotta excommunicate you now," because he had a habit of having sexual relationships with people he was not married to, because he really, wasn't married for very long for those times he
Mm,
was.
never
And
won.
and also he was like a sex tourist, like he would go to South America just to have sex with people. Um,
Okay, which is a really bad sex tourist guide or the sexual tourism stuff that goes on, like,
yep,
with Tim Ballard and those ops,
yeah.
and I'm just like, "Mm-mm." And
So
Colombia?
having
Oh, no.
yeah. So having confessed that stuff to his bishop, he was excommunicated. But when somebody voluntarily goes and tells their bishop that they're doing things that are bad, it's like a reluctant excommunication. It's like they call it a council of love. They're like,
Mm.
we can't allow you to be a member anymore, but you can repent and come back if you show that you're faithful. So that he still would have been very much welcome in the congregation. He still
Mhm.
would have been very much, like, taken under the wing of priesthood leaders, like, let's get you back in the church, would have been the focus of everything, which is so hypocritical, because when you get excommunicated for saying things about the church that are true, they don't want you anywhere near their meetings or their buildings.
Right? Because then you
You
might
know,
rub off on everybody else, and they
You
might
might
find
tell the
out.
truth and somebody might believe you. So don't
Mhm.
do that.
That's so
Anyway,
funny.
so Alex was excommunicated, rebaptized, excommunicated, and I think rebaptized. I think it's 3 strikes, right? I think you
Oh,
can't
really?
go
So
back
there
then.
is
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
so the question was, oh, there was no ordinances showing for him. It's possible that when he got excommunicated that they removed. Okay, so here's the other thing about LDS Family Search. It's basically a beginner's, like, it's an amateur thing.
Okay.
Anybody can get on there and put any information they want. And I found this out when I was doing my family history research. There is so much incorrect garbage on there that real researchers and real historians would just lose their minds if they had to go on there. So please don't just trust what you see on that site. Please verify it. If it doesn't have documents attached to it, don't believe it, because there are people over here claiming that they were related to Charlemagne and whatnot. So you just have to take it with a grain of salt. But it's possible that when Alex was excommunicated, they would have removed the records of his ordinances, because when you get excommunicated, it's like you're starting from scratch again. Like you have to get rebaptized.
Newborn
You have
baby.
to go
Yeah.
back through the temple again and have your blessings restored, is what they call it. So sorry, that was a long explanation for a
No,
very
it
simple
wasn't.
question.
I remember, look, and I printed these out in the very beginning, and I need to show them to you still. But there are some genealogy records. I remember Barry and Janice like locked their accounts down so you couldn't see anything further. And I got on it long. And this is before, though. This is right before everything happened. And I bought two of these, actually, 23andMe kits, and I still have not taken them because that's around the same time that I found out that all this was going down. And I was like, oh no, never mind. Don't want my stuff in a vault in a mountain. Okay. First off. And then knowing how this is crazy too. Whenever, right before all this stuff happened in 2018, so I got interested in, tracing down my family lineage, da da da. That's why I bought these. But whenever I signed up to the website, I don't even remember which one, but when I signed up to it, I signed up under my middle name, which is K, and I signed up with my first ex-husband's last name. I don't know why I did that. That's I'm like,
Just
oh,
wanted to
thank
be
God you did
incognito.
that. Yeah, thank God, because I'm thinking that's how the church even got my address to leave the Jesus card in my living room. Anyways, allegedly, I don't know, but so I was looking things up, and I remember that my great grandfather on the Vallow side. Okay, so it's very relevant as far as like Chad raiding my family, basically.
Yeah.
And so I know that I've said this so many times that I'm like, well, my great grandfather was adopted, JJ was adopted, so okay, Chad, your stuff sucks. You know what I mean? Like I just try to poke holes in everything. And so I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, do you know who or what the names are of great grandfather's parents so I can find out where the hell, where this goes. And anyway, so she didn't, but she was like, oh, and this is, I don't remember her saying this, but I do now. But she said, oh, Mormons love doing this. And she's like, Lori, so she actually, and so I have to ask my mom, like, because she sent me some screenshots of a Apple computer screen. Like somebody took a picture of the computer screen, like 3 or 4 of them, and they were live photos, turns out. And they were of Lori's computer. And she had my family lineage in 2018. I'm like, oh shit, is this what she sent to Chad? Like, did we like cross paths just briefly? And then she used that same lineage chart to send to what Peter Griffith or whatever.
Yeah.
I have some
Yeah.
icons
Chud.
before but I'm just like, wow, how crazy. That's so crazy to me.
Mhm.
Just
Well,
know that.
let me tell Megan my ancestry thing real quick. Krisha knows, a lot of them know, but I never knew who my father was. I was raised in Winslow, Arizona. A lot of LDS, but a lot of very diverse town. I grew up as in First Christian Church, but my mother would never tell me anything about my father. Nothing. Oh, his name isn't worth knowing. She told some people it was this person, it was that. It was a Hispanic guy that raped her, blah, blah, blah. So I had an ancestry kit for forever and I never did it. I don't know. I did it in June of this year, and guess what I found? Flakes from Snowflake. Full of flakes from
Whoa.
Snowflake.
Ruh-roh.
Can you believe that? I had no idea at
Wow.
all. And then
Wow.
there it
Yeah,
is. I
that's
mean, and they are the Mormony, very Mormony Mormons. You know what I
The
mean?
Mormonist Mormons who ever Mormoned.
Yeah.
There's no
All
white.
of you people who are in the comments over here asking about laundry day, y'all, what do you do on laundry day? You have backup underwear?
Bathing suit. You have your Mormon bathing suit.
It's not like
I'm
you
like,
just
where
have
did the
one
Lord
set
tuck
of
hers
Mormon
in at?
underwear.
Because you know her ass didn't wear a whole piece. She wore a freaking two-piece.
Okay, so
Where did
yeah,
she put hers?
that's the other thing. When my grandparents were coming up, the garment was a single piece. Y'all, can you imagine like having
That's
to
what
deal
I
with that
recall
at
seeing.
bathroom
How
time?
embarrassing.
Oh my gosh. So they
That's
used
what
to
I
be
recall
like
seeing.
the original garment was all the way to the wrists and all the way to the ankles, and it was a single
Oh my
piece.
God.
Then they started making them to the knee and short sleeved and one piece. Then they finally divided it into two pieces. I don't know exactly when that happened, but I didn't go through the temple until 2004-ish. And when I went through the temple, there was still a line in the temple ceremony that said, well, first of all, bow your head and say yes was always a thing. Like that, it's like the most manipulative thing. Like
Wow.
that's how you make your promises. You bow your head and say yes. And then the other thing was I had to promise to my husband never went through the temple. So a lot of this stuff I was like, okay, what does this even mean for me? Because I don't have a man to take me to heaven. So I guess I just am out of luck. But there's a promise in there where the man has to promise to listen to the Lord, but the woman promises to listen to her husband,
Right.
who listens to the Lord.
And then he serves the
That
Lord, right? So
they've
she worships
they've
it,
taken
like,
I promise to listen to my husband as he listens to the Lord. So they've taken that out now. So they're constantly making changes. And that's the other thing. They're like, oh, our gospel never changes. And then they change everything. And then there's this talk like a few months ago where the number 2 guy in Mormonism said, sometimes there are temporary commandments. Y'all, temporary commandments. Are you kidding me? Are you saying like the ones that are written on a napkin instead of written on the stone tablets? Like it's just ridiculous. It's crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, so temple garments, you were expected to, I mean, I had, there were all kinds of different ones, like they made nursing ones and stuff like that. So yeah,
and now they're sleeveless.
and I was
so
watching.
I was at a friend's house. I was at a friend's house in the bathroom, and I saw something like on a hook, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh my gosh, so I'm over there picking them up, like looking, and there was like a one piece, like halfway down female kind of, and I'm over there like checking them out. But that was probably, 25 years ago at least,
Yeah, and also, the older generation, when you get comfortable with something, like it's hard to break that habit. So even when they came out with two-piece garments, a lot of them continued to wear the onesie
I get it.
until they
I
completely
get
wore
it.
out. But what I was going to say is I do a analysis of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I watch it so you don't have to, and I talk about all the Mormon
I
things.
haven't.
You guys, there's this part where they go on a girls trip and one of the girls forgets her garments, which means she also doesn't have like regular underwear either. Because you wouldn't, because as a Mormon, I had maybe like 2 pairs of regular underwear for like mowing the lawn or, whatever, working out in or whatever, And so if you go on a trip and you don't bring your garments, she didn't have any underwear. And you can't just go down the street and buy garments. You have to buy them from the distribution center, which is like attached to the temple, or you have to order them online, and you have to like enter your temple recommend number. They have to verify it, so it's not like you can get a hold of garments if you aren't a card carrying member,
Yeah, that's nuts. And that's, to me, is
However,
like Monopoly.
I just had an idea. I think at the distribution center, they just ask you to show your recommend and they look to see if the date is valid, but they don't actually scan it.
Oh.
So I could change the date on mine
I remember,
and go buy more Mormon
you
underwear
can
if I
do some
wanted
new
to.
name Noah shit. I mean, he even
No.
talked about whenever he went on Mormon Stories podcast, and did his interview a long time ago,
Yeah.
he talked about how, I mean, back in the day, he would take, you know, and like his mother would be grocery shopping or whatever, and the barcodes on the back of a canned good or something, and he would like learn how to forge it basically, and so he would forge Temple recommends anyway. So
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, I've done
Yeah,
that with
there
our
is
bookboard a long
there's a
time ago.
market for it, like for people who, and I don't know exactly how to go about it, but I probably know someone who knows someone who could do it. But like for people, when your family member is getting married and you want to go to the wedding, but you're not a card carrying member, you can get one,
Yeah.
you know, but also it has to be a situation where like your family members all think that you are a card
Oh,
carrying
so
member and you're not, because like if I now
you're
tried
not.
to get into the temple with my family, they wouldn't let me go in. They'd be like, how did you
Right.
get a temple recommend? Because I have
But to not
removed my
be
name from the
shamed,
records.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, to maybe not be shamed if something were happened or whatever,
Yeah, I might as well
right?
be
Or a wedding.
in a black hole because
Oh
I'm
my
an
god.
apostate now. I'm going to outer
I'm
darkness, you guys.
I know, and I'm right there with you, girl.
It'll be
And
fun.
so I think a lot of us are all with you and we're okay with that, you know? So, I think they're missing out actually,
I do
you
too,
know?
and that the sad part about it is that if you never find out the truth, then you spend your whole life living your life in a certain way,
Controlled
and
and
you're
in
controlled,
bondage.
and you never, and that's the thing that I think is so sad, is that there's such a focus on the afterlife that Mormons
Right.
aren't really living this life, a lot of them. You know, they're
That
like,
is a
"Oh,
good
it'll be
point.
better in heaven. You know, I'll wait until I get to heaven and things will be better then."
So
It's
you're
like
rushing through this one and not even you're oh my god, that's so sad, man.
it's like you think that the next life is gonna be so great. This life is just gonna kind of be a memory, so it's not as important, you know?
Right?
And I have to ask the question, what if this is all I get?
Yeah.
You know, how am I gonna live my
Yeah,
life if this is all I get and I
exactly.
don't get to be with my family after this life is over?
'Cause
I
nobody
wanna
knows.
savor every moment that I have with them now, because
Right,
guess what? If there is an afterlife, then I will have had 2 beautiful lives instead of
right.
1.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's a bonus, a lagniappe, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, and it is so sad. It's heart-wrenching. You know,
yeah,
I mean, it's yes, yeah, they do have different things. The undies, the all the things, Jesus jammies, all the things. But at the end of the day, you know, when you really think about it, it's so sad. It's so sad.
yeah.
And
And
they're just so
also
deceived people, you know? And
yeah, and I have to always, you know, ask other people and myself this question, you're like, if it's not true, would you want to know? And I'm always the type of person who would say, heck yes, I want to know if it's not true. But there are some
yeah,
people who don't. There are some people who are really happy in that, they're really happy taking that drug, and it makes sense for them, and it makes
yeah,
their life peaceful. And I will tell you this, that having to completely deconstruct your worldview is very scary. You have to come against all 4 of those existential fears, and you have to find a
mhm,
way to sit with that and be okay. And it's not easy. It's really hard to do. And so I don't blame people who stay. I don't blame people who don't want to know the truth, who don't want to look at the
right.
evidence, who double down when somebody tells them something harmful about the church. They're like, nope, you're wrong. I get it. I totally 100% get it.
The whole
Um,
world.
but also to ask to sort of look at this, Jenny Allison commented, I couldn't go into my friend's wedding ceremony because I'm not Mormon. I felt bad for his sisters because they couldn't go in due to not being baptized. And I will tell you guys, so I got married when I was 20, but I married a man who was not a member. And so we didn't get married in the temple. So I didn't go through the temple. And when I told my bishop, I was like, I want to go through the temple by myself because I want to make those promises to God. And he said, I would counsel you to wait for your husband. So my husband did get baptized about 2 years after we were married. And he was only in for like 4 months before he was like, this is not for me. And it was heartbreaking for me because my goal was to get to the temple. That's like the
Eternal.
ultimate Mormon goal, right?
Right.
And so when I realized he wasn't coming back, my bishop, I had a different bishop then who said, like, yeah, it will be better if you wait, because if you go through the temple without him, your knowledge and intelligence is going to increase exponentially and his is going to stay the same, and you guys are going to be too far apart. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, I don't want that, you know? And then also like having to explain the Mormon underwear to him, you know, when
Oh
he was,
gosh.
you know, we're not supposed to talk about it outside of the temple. So when he asked
And
me
you
what
were
the
in Utah.
and when he asked me what the markings were on my Mormon underwear, I said, I can't tell you.
Oh,
That's how Mormon I was.
you are so Mormon.
I was so Mormon. So I
Oh my
waited
God.
for about 10 years after we were married to go through the temple because I didn't want to have that distance between us. And
Right.
I kept asking God, like, is it time now? Is it time now? Is it time now? And I finally felt okay about it. So I went through the temple, like I said, around 2004. You guys, I missed all of the weddings of my siblings. I stood
It's so
outside the
sad.
temple when my sister was getting married, and I cried my eyes out because that's my sister. I love her more
Yeah,
than I
y'all.
love anybody in the whole world almost, you know, and to
Mhm.
not be there for the most important day of her life, to have to stand outside the door, that's so
It,
humiliating.
it's
I was like
dehumanizing
the
and
only
rude. Yeah, it's
in the
mean.
family who had to be outside the temple. The rest of my whole family was in there, and I was outside with the kids who hadn't been baptized.
So, and I mean, for your sister who was there and didn't get to have you, her sister, at her side, or
Yeah.
it's so for a faith who preaches and teaches that families can be together forever when they're actually not allowing that here on earth in this life is
Yep.
so like, what?
It's family with an asterisk. Families
There
can
you
be
go.
together. Some conditions may apply. See the fine print, because
Well,
they're not
especially
about families.
you hadn't done anything wrong. You were still doing all your LDS stuff,
Yep.
except for the husband, you
I
know,
was
like,
super faithful at that time. I was trying to Mormon
wow.
so hard because I hadn't been through the temple. I felt like I had to prove that I was good because I didn't have that card, you know? So
Mhm.
Wow.
I was spending hours and hours and hours doing church service and church work so that I could feel acceptable in Mormonism.
I want to share this with y'all real
That is
quick,
painful.
and
Yeah.
this was in Tim Ballard's federal lawsuit. Attached as evidence. Uh-oh. Oh, that's him. Okay, my bad.
It's like, Catherine, we need to spice up things, you know? Because, like, things aren't great right now. But, you know, to spice it up, like, let's not, like, wear our Jesus jammies to bed. I made a covenant. I'm like, really? Where's in the scriptures that says you wear these? Because Joseph Smith was killed not wearing them. Like, they're great. They're great, whatever. They're fine. They're symbolic, whatever. But it's like,
Whatever.
it's like, Catherine, it's like this lay naked.
Oh, you know, that's just so, I don't know. I just found that very telling, you know. Let me fix this, allegedly. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and
Hear me.
it's also one of those things that like we get so shamed when we mess up even a little bit or do something even a little bit wrong that we're afraid. And I'm having so much compassion for Tim Ballard's wife right now. I don't know what kind of a person she actually is, but I'm just thinking
I have
about
no
that
idea.
scenario, right?
Yeah.
She is such a faithful person that she's afraid to say to her husband, yes, I will lay naked with you because I made a promise to God to wear these
Or
garments.
to him, and then to,
Yeah, but
yeah,
what
to him.
about your I just, oh
She gives
God, it's
blessings too, which I find interesting, just like
so
Lori.
okay, I want to clear this thing up now. This is an important thing too. When you go through the temple, you are sort of the idea is that you're blessed with the power of God, right? You have special access to more power because you've made these promises, right? And in the temple, the women temple workers do lay their hands on the heads of women and give them blessings as part of the ceremony. And so women who have been through the temple do have access to the power of the priesthood. And so back in the early Mormon times, women didn't hold offices in the priesthood, but they were encouraged to bless people and pray in that way. And I've done that before for my own kids when I had a
Witness,
husband that wasn't
healing, yeah.
faithful, who didn't have the priesthood, but I had access to it because I'd been through the temple. So it doesn't surprise me whenever I hear people say that women, you know, they've heard of Mormon women laying their hands on people's head and giving a blessing. That's not surprising to me. It is surprising to hear Lori on the call with Colby say that she absolutely believes that she has the power to cast out devils, just like in season 2, episode 5 of The Chosen.
Yeah.
And I had to go look it up and watch the episode because I wanted to know what she was talking about. She believes
I
that she has
think
the
that
power to cast out devils.
the whole thing with the temple, how they used film basically to what is it? Portray Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden or whatever, and how it is such a new religion that, and then they chose that way to, you know, share that message with people going through the temple. To
Sorry,
me,
I
it
had to
gives
laugh.
off that vibe, or that vibe of like comparing it to pop culture.
Yeah,
Okay, because
totally.
the movie here in the temple. So go ahead.
It was just Chris Fajtik, I think. Lori Daybell has the power of Tony Robbins.
Yeah, she does. His family
Hey, look,
is
everybody, it's
affected by
Tony
this
Robbins.
too. His family is affected by this movement as well. People in this movement that
Really?
are connected to Tim Ballard, you know, they're from Hawaii over there.
Okay.
And so I love that he, you know, we actually have each other's numbers and we send each other stuff all the time. And he really does like study and research Tom Harrison, Tony Robbins, you know, kind of the people that you know, he was way ahead of me with that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, just the overall picture of what could be going on. And so there's this whole non-linguistic programming, NLP, which are words that are used. I swear to God, Megan, when I go to read something that was print or, you know, created by someone who is, I'm not going to say Mormon, but just, well, I mean, I have to, because basically that's what it is. But when I go to read it out loud, I get so I can't articulate the things that they wrote. It reminds me of when an engineer creates blueprints or whatever, and then they look great on paper, but then whenever you go to apply that, because you're a contractor building a house or something, it don't work because only on paper, you know? So it's just like, I hate it because I'm just like, I sound like I cannot read.
Well,
You know?
it's in speak. There's so much in speak. Like when I first started writing my Mormon chapter in my book, I felt like I had to do a glossary first, because you have to explain what all these things mean to people who've never heard of it before. And I wanted to address this comment by Dive Urgent. I don't think Lori was second anointed. They may have done some kind of ceremony that they made up themselves, but you have to be invited by somebody in the first presidency or in the higher leadership of the church to be second
Which
anointed.
I always thought it could have been Elder Ballard because of the closeness connection with Tim. However, I do talk to Justin with LDS abuse. Okay. And he actually did the research. Like he contacted the people. And so I still need to get back with him on that to find out. I think
That's
Elder
fascinating.
Ballard
I
wasn't in
wonder.
town that weekend because it was the weekend of November 16th through the 18th. If it was a second anointing, it would have been on a Sunday, which is when the temple is closed, allegedly.
I remember talking with you about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because second
And
anointings take place on Sundays in the temples because they're
usually,
closed to everybody
right.
else.
And so, but people have also crapped on the idea because they're basically everybody's understanding, which I mean, there's not a great understanding because you can go back and read Joseph Smith's tale of it. You know, and I have all the old stuff, but I'm like, they do whatever they want when they want, okay, and how they want. And so you just shut up. You just have to shut up and just take it, basically. And I mean, it's like the Fight Club. There are no you don't talk about the
You
Fight
don't talk
Club,
about
you
Fight Club.
know?
Yeah, so if you've
It's
been
the same
second
thing.
anointed, you're not allowed to admit to anybody that you've been second anointed, even if you're
Or
directly asked. Yeah, or
because
yeah,
you
they
can
used to
tell.
have these
Right.
penalties in the temple where you agreed that you were going to slit your throat and be disemboweled if you ever told the secrets of the temple.
Yeah.
They stopped doing that in like 1995, I think.
Allegedly.
But the
They might
second
still do it with the second
anointing,
anointing. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, second anointing, from what I understand, is from people who have been second anointed and who've talked about it. From what I understand, is that you have to be invited by one of the higher up leaders of the church,
Actually,
and
the
it
prophet. And then through the
right
prophet, like,
down through the channels.
they can do it on behalf of the prophet, but he has to actually approve it,
Right.
allegedly.
So it would be the all of the top 15 dudes
Mhm.
and all of the what they call the quorum of the 70, which please don't ask me to explain that because it's another
It's weird.
bunch of
It does like
made
this.
up gobbledygook. But yeah, it is a pyramid for sure.
Mhm.
So there are basically 125 men in the leadership of the church. They've all been second anointed, most likely, as well as anybody who's ever been a president of a temple or a temple presidency, and most likely anybody who's ever been a mission president.
Oh.
And then in addition, certain people get invited like when they reach a certain age or just they become popular with the
Level.
leadership or something like that. That I think it may be a tithing issue. I don't
I
know,
think
but
it's just whatever. I
it's
really
a
do.
cult within a cult within a cult.
It's so crazy, y'all, and there's layer upon layer upon layer. I don't know. To me, the leadership has lost all. I don't see integrity. It missed them. I'm still looking for it, for these people. And I mean, I try not to look at them so sinister, so like cynical. I don't want to be cynical. That's not me. But I'm also like, yeah, but there's this, and then there's that, and you'd have to really micro compartmentalize everything. And
Mhm.
then just to cope with that, and that's me as an outsider, never being an insider, straight
Well,
up,
when your
so
family's murdered, you're
yeah,
cynical. You're going to be cynical.
and
Right.
I'm trying
Yes.
not to, but
Well,
I'm already past that point.
it's kind of like Kresha when I started healing from all the abuse that I'd been through, and I sort of like my eyes became opened to what abusive behavior looks like. And then I became intolerant of it. And it is absolutely okay to be intolerant of abusive and manipulative behavior.
I don't like
And
seeing it.
and when I look at the leadership of the church and I listen to the words that they say, they're not even good people, much less good
No,
Mormons.
no.
They are disrespectful to so many groups of people, especially and including anybody who's left the church. It's like if you've left the church and you're critical, even if the criticism is true, you deserve bad things. Because
Yep.
that's what they tell us when we leave the church. They're like, there's literally a talk called "Where Will You Go?"
What the
And
hell?
it's like, where will you go and what will you
What about
do
me?
if you're not Mormon? Who will talk to you? Who will socialize with you? You will lose all of your blessings and you will
Oh
be
my
under
god.
Satan's power. That's basically what they believe. So for
So nothing's
example,
gonna change, right? I'm just
so
kidding.
when I was a Mormon, if I had lost my job, people would say to me, "Oh, I'm sure that God will bless you with something. I'm sure that God will take care of you and your family.
Oh my
Here,
god.
have some money. Go to the bishop's storehouse and get some food. Do you need help paying your bills this month? Here's some gift cards at Christmas time."
Pity, 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 pity.
But when
Like,
you
I'm better
leave
than
the
you.
church, when you leave
Oh
the
my god.
church, "Oh, I lost my job because I broke my covenants with God. I deserve to lose my job. That's my punishment for
You
leaving the
didn't pray
church."
hard enough, so you didn't God hard enough, and so you didn't Mormon hard enough.
Yep.
And then
And
so you left the church. A lot of people do leave the church, and then they say, why can't you just leave the
you
church
leave the
alone?
church, but you can't leave it alone. You know why I can't leave it alone? Because I was harmed by the church, because the church continues to harm
Offended.
me, and I will continue to talk about my experiences. And if they make you look bad, that's not my fault.
Yeah, then that's
And
on them.
whenever I go on TikTok is where I do all my ex-Mormon stuff because
Really?
the ex-Mormon
Oh,
community
I'm
is
going.
really active on TikTok. You
Hell
can
yeah.
find some really funny stuff over there. But
Girl.
every time I talk about Mormonism over there, when I say things about the church that are true but are harmful to the reputation of the church, I get people in my comments all the time that say, how sad that you've traded your eternal salvation for this. How sad that you've joined the ranks of Satan. How sad that you've lost the light in your eyes. How sad that
I've
you've
heard
chosen
that.
evil. It's like
Not me, but
if
I'm sure.
you are not yet a Mormon, come to our church building, come to our
Yeah,
activities. We
I'm
love
good.
you. It's okay that you drink now. You'll quit sometime and become a Mormon. But if I do it
Mhm.
as an ex-Mormon, they're like, you're going to hell. We don't care about you anymore.
Wow. So what does that tell you? Like, as a Nevermo right here, and proud of it. Okay. Or any other religious institution for that matter. I don't need a middleman. You don't either. Just letting you know. But no, I don't want to be judged here on earth. That's not anybody else's job.
No, it's
It's
not.
not mine either. Like I don't get to judge anybody else. And I'm glad I don't actually have that job because
Yeah.
that's horrific. Like,
And people say, oh, the Mormons are just the nicest people I've ever met.
they
Some of
can
them
be.
are. That's true. They can be. But
And
guys,
unless you
the
speak out.
main reason that they're nice to you is because they're trying to convert you. They really do. Like when I was a true believing Mormon, I was counseled all the time to like find an opportunity to have a gospel conversation. So if somebody walks up to you in the grocery store and says, "What beautiful children," I'm supposed to reply with something like, "Thank you so much. You know what? I'm so glad that I have this belief and faith that I'm going to be with my family forever." I'm
I
supposed to
mean, that's
find a
just
way
too
to
much
start a
right there.
conversation like that because people need to know. Everybody has to be told, like there's a prophecy that every
Image.
single person is going to be taught the gospel at some point. Oh, that's the other thing about heaven
I'll wait till
is
my
that
afterlife.
Mormons believe that if you were not a Mormon, when you go to heaven, you go to a place called spirit prison right
Yeah.
away. And when I asked I was playing with the LDS chatbot the other day. When I
Oh,
asked
they
the
have
LDS,
one? What?
oh yeah, it's fun. It's so fun. I
Everybody's
asked the
gonna go there
LDS
now.
chatbot, why is it that Mormons believe that non-Mormons go to prison when they die? And the chatbot was like, "Oh, it's not a punishment prison. It's just a holding place where you go until you learn the truth." And so what else are people busy doing in heaven? Preaching the gospel to dead people who aren't Mormon yet.
And showing up to Lori.
Yeah, and showing up to Lori apparently.
And giving her, more speech, more talk, more
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah.
Okay? More lies.
I did an episode a couple weeks ago about what Mormons believe about the afterlife, but I was really rushed because I had another thing that I
Do
had
it
to go
again.
and do. So I need to go back and do it again because if
Mhm.
non-Mormons knew what Mormons believed about them, what happens to them after this life is over, they would not think that LDS people were so magnanimous.
There you go. Hey, do it as many times as you want. I'm telling you, because I mean, there's so many things that just like just going through this process, and then I'm like, I didn't know what I knew then. Now I know, and so things click different, and so I'm all about that. And Colby too, like how he's doing Sins of Our Mother, all the things that he's
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
You know,
He's
I
doing
mean,
great
and
stuff.
then as family members of the victims, I don't. I say that's the grace on yourself, like going through this process. Do it as many freaking times as you
Yeah.
need to
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
true.
healing. It's
Yeah.
healing. And yeah, so no judgment here. And I learned so many
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
I'm
just
still gonna
ask me
follow
all
you
your
on
Mormon
TikTok.
questions
Oh
because I
God,
think
noted.
there's so much about this case that is so Mormon that people can't really understand because it's like
Mhm.
just even the simple idea of going to the temple every day has such a
Yeah.
complicated answer, you know?
Whenever I heard Heather Daybell with her interview with Hidden True Crime, back a while back, and she was talking about how she started to have more LDS, like temple paintings or, church related uh, decorations in her home. And she was going to the temple more often. And I want to say she said once a week or something. I forget, or a couple times a week. And I was just like, oh God, well, isn't that a bit extreme? And she she caught it, and she said, so whenever she was kind of leaving Mormonism behind, that basically people were like, oh yeah, you were getting kind of extra, more, I guess, uber, I think is the word she said, or something like that, uber Mormon,
Yeah.
and she was like, why didn't y'all tell me then? So I'm like, so see, it is a very slippery slope, and not everybody Mormons the same way the next person
Mhm.
Mormons. So
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of family tradition goes into Mormonism as well, because certain families do certain things, don't do
mhm,
certain things. Like in my family, keeping the Sabbath day holy was always like a point of contention because everybody kind of does it differently. But Mormons
mhm,
don't believe in like going shopping on Sunday or working on Sunday or playing sports on Sunday. But every family sort of
mhm,
has their own version of how strict they are about that. For example, I was not allowed to do homework on Sundays. We were not allowed to watch anything on TV that was not like family oriented. So we always watched the Disney Sunday movie like every Sunday night. My dad played
mhm.
classical music all day long on Sunday because we weren't
My
we weren't
grandpa
allowed to
would
listen
too.
to like rock music. And I
Oh,
actually love classical music. I think
it's
that's where some
okay.
of my love of that came. So I'm not mad about that part. But there were
Yeah.
families who, for example, um, people who had kids that were like really good at sports and would be on the high school team going to the state championship or whatever. Oh, my kid can't play on Sunday, or they wouldn't,
Mhm.
they wouldn't allow practices on Sunday and stuff like that. And I was so Mormon that a Mormon opera director asked me to audition for his opera on a Sunday. And I was like, I is it okay to do that? Because it's an audition, so it's kind of like a job interview, and I felt really awkward about it, and he sort of chuckled a little bit and was like, It'll be fine. You can come audition. You're singing a song. You'll be fine." But I was so Mormon that I had angst over that. I was like, "Oh my gosh, a Mormon is asking me to break a Mormon rule. What do I do?"
Yeah. So sorry for the things that Megan said when she was Mormon.
I am sorry for everything that I said to everyone when I was
Oh,
actually I was not one of those judgmental Mormons that told people they were going to hell and stuff like that. I tried to be
why
really
not?
inclusive and loving towards everybody. The
And
only time
browbeat
that
everybody?
the only time that I did say stuff that I regretted was when Prop 8 was coming out and
Mm,
same-sex marriage was on the ballot and all of that kind of stuff. I had so much cognitive dissonance about that because it didn't feel right to me to deny marriage to gay people, but I felt like I had to be
mm,
Mormon about it. And
right.
so I'm sure I said some hurtful things to people during that era, but I very quickly got to the point where I was like, okay, no, I don't care what the church says
Yeah,
about this.
and
It's
we can
wrong.
I'm ignorant, okay, as the day is long, okay, straight up. I never try to, like, intentionally, like, inflict pain on anybody else, but I know the things that I ignorantly speak about, yeah, and so I'm sorry for all the things I said in an ignorant state,
Yeah.
like, it's not on purpose, it's never intentional, but I get to a point where if I really sat here and just kept with the disclaimers, the disclaimers, the disclaimers, I mean, I've done it, I've tried,
Yeah.
and I can't
Yeah.
even talk my way out of a wet paper bag as it is. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, I just kinda had to I feel like and so this is all just probably invisible to anyone on the
Yeah.
outside, but inside, I was like, I have to make a choice between pissing a lot of people off, even that means even the people who are in Rexburg who are also hurting, who
Yeah.
still belong to this faith
Yeah.
and who actually work on the fence for the kids, and I'm just like, "Oh god," and it was such it
Yeah. It's
ripped
a
me
hard,
apart,
yeah. This
but I
is a
wanted
good
to speak to
question.
their truth.
Yeah, from Sweet Carol Ann, that I think is important to address. She says, I recently went back to my Catholic church after many, many years. Do you miss the actual God part, the actual feelings of being in a house of God? And that's a sticking point for a lot of Mormons because they believe that when you get baptized, you receive the gift of the Holy Ghost, which means that the Holy Ghost can be with you all the time as long as you're being
Yes,
good and
ma'am.
Mormon.
If you're Catholic.
And they teach you that whenever you have a good feeling, it's coming from God. And whenever you have a bad feeling, it's coming from Satan. And so that's why they say, like, you're never going to feel happy again because you can't have the Holy Ghost with you. So they believe that they have a monopoly on euphoria. And when I left the church, that was one of the things I wrestled with the most, was that, like, oh, I thought I'd had all of these spiritual confirmations of the Holy
Wow.
Ghost telling me that this is true. What do I do about that? And what I realized is that I had the same happy, good, euphoric feelings, that same warm feeling sometimes when I was listening to a beautiful piece of music, or sometimes when I was out in nature, or sometimes when I was serving people or just doing something good for someone. And I will never forget that as a true believing Mormon, I was in New York City and I went for the first time into the big cathedral. I think it's St. Matthew's, the huge, huge one on Fifth Avenue. And I remember walking in there and just having this beautiful, peaceful feeling come over me. And I was so confused because I thought that Mormons had a monopoly on the Holy Ghost. And I
Wow.
realized at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a house of God where faithful people come to worship. Of course, it feels peaceful in here. And I thought about all of the craftsmen who, made those paintings and those sculptures and built the walls and all of that. And I felt the same way about that beautiful building as I did when I went into the Salt Lake Temple for the first time and thought about the pioneers who sacrificed to build that building and how beautiful that was as like a sacrifice to their God. And it was the first time in the cathedral that I was like, oh, I can feel this feeling outside of Mormonism. That's amazing. And so now that I'm fully out, I feel that feeling all the time when I'm out in nature, when I'm spending time with my kids, when I'm experiencing any kind of beauty or awe or wonder in my life. So no, I don't miss that feeling because I've found so many more places where I can feel it now.
I second that. I think that God is with you all the time, and you have that Holy Spirit, so to speak, all the time. And I mean, I remember being so thankful and grateful that I caught all the red lights that I did, and then only to find out that whenever I did catch up, right ahead of me was a bad accident. I'm like, oh,
Mm,
okay. So it's just like sometimes just it's okay, that things happen the way they do.
yeah.
Whatever. I don't know. It's different for everybody, but I just definitely don't need somebody throwing judgment on me. And I definitely don't believe I have to confess anything that I do here on earth. I can have that conversation in my head with my
Yeah.
God, and he knows my heart. He made it. That's how I look at it. Hey,
Yeah.
your body is your temple. So it's like, okay. Yeah, I mean, look at how Jesus was. I'm not a very religious person, but I'm very spiritual, like
Hmm.
I don't know. I just don't like seeing religious institutions spiritually abusing people
Yeah.
as a means
I
of
agree.
control. And I'm
Yeah.
learning more and more and more about that, and it's more and more disgusting.
Yeah. And there's this saying, I think that my therapist told me, that religion is for people who are scared of hell and spirituality is for people who've been there.
There you go.
And
Hey,
for
I like
me,
that.
my religion was part of my hell. And so
There
I'm
you
really
go.
happy to be out of it.
And you left both of them,
So I consider myself to be a very spiritual person. I am a very spiritual person. I
Yeah.
have no idea what God really is, except
Who
for,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know
course.
what is true about God. I really don't,
Mhm,
because I believe that anytime that human beings get involved in trying to interpret something that is
mhm.
infinite and eternal and incomprehensible, they're going to get it wrong. So I don't know that necessarily any human beings have the right answers about
Right.
what God is, who God is, or any of that stuff. But what I do know is that dang it, I'm going to cry again.
Mhm.
What I do know is that when I contemplate my place in the universe and I think about the fact that I am made from the same material that the whole universe is made of, I am made of stardust. And every
Yeah.
single person on the earth who ever lived or who ever will live is also made of stardust. And so I am connected to every single human being as part
Mhm.
of the human family. That's what I know. And if there's somebody who organized all of this and put it all together, thank you. And if
Yeah.
there's not, what an incredibly miraculous, valuable, and precious and beautiful thing we have.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Say it for everybody in the back pew. I'm serious, for real. That's beautiful, and I too don't know who source is, and even people who've had near-death experiences or whatever, I mean, okay, I respect their experience. I'm not saying that they didn't have that, but I'm also saying
Yeah.
that nobody knows, and so nobody, like you said, nobody gets to interpret that for me. I just
Yeah.
know I feel like I came from source, whatever whomever, whatever source is, and so like you said, thank God or thank you for giving me this experience. It's really
Yeah.
I didn't come here as a rock or a blade of grass, like Julie Rose says. So, or table or wood or anything else for that matter,
Yeah.
but who's to say? They're not the boss of me. Okay?
Exactly. Exactly. Nobody
So,
gets to tell you. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good one right there. Meanwhile, we should be asking forgiveness from those other humans that we wronged. That
Yeah.
and we should give them grace as well because
Absolutely. Because we none of us really
we're
fully
humaning.
understand someone else's experiences and what they've been through. And when people screw up and do stupid things, even when they hurt me now, I look at them and I say, um, I don't know what you went through, but whatever it was, it must have sucked for you to treat me this way, you know?
Right. Yeah. I agree. What got me to come to terms with death was JJ and Tylee and Charles. Um,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, I started flying on airplanes and even by myself, and it's just
Mm,
like I just wasn't scared anymore. Like I just kind
mm,
of thought like if they had to endure what the hell they had to go through, it's the least I can do is live. I can live. And like if I don't show up, I don't get to experience that to be able to tell about it or to talk
yeah.
about it or to understand as fully as I can. But they taught me that,
Mm,
to not be scared of dying. And I used to be scared of dying. My daughter's actually questioning this right now. And I'm just like, you just don't. I mean, and I remember doing that
yeah.
so often. And it ruled my entire life.
Yeah.
Opportunities that I would take or turn down or flying, something as simple as flying. My mom was
Yeah.
like, "Anywhere, I will take you anywhere." And I was just like, "No, no, thank you. I'm good." But I also had an uncle die in a plane crash in Joplin,
Yeah.
Missouri. So, I mean, there's traumatic things that happen, and anyways, we're all on our own different walks of life, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that you all come here long enough to share with us, you know?
Of course. I love that you're able to fly now and that you got that from the kids, I think that's
Yeah,
beautiful. I think
it's
that's awesome.
there's so many things that their lives teach me. Them being here and leaving the way they did even, like I will never, ever, I sound like Tim Ballard, ever thank Chad and Lori for this experience. Okay. I'm not Melanie Gibb. I'm not gonna be like, okay, and she was so grateful that she got to experience it so up close. And I'm thinking, girl, hold
She's
my
cr
earrings.
I'm sorry. Mm, I
Talk
have
about
words that I
judgmental.
want to say, but I will not.
Do it in a strongly worded letter and then burn it
Yes.
or
I enjoy
whatever, or
burning
send it to
letters.
her. Right.
The
But I
devilish
don't know.
little heathen that I am.
Well, somebody's got to do the outer darkness. Got to represent.
That's right. If I'm going
Being
to outer
positive,
darkness anyway, I might as well look
dragging
the
you
part.
down.
I might as well
Right.
show my shoulders whenever I want. There. What do you think about that?
Oh my God. I don't know. Just all we can do is just be the best humans possible. That's it.
Yeah.
And I look at everybody as my brother and sister, like, and so in the God scheme of things, I'm just like, God wants all his children back, not just those that pay tithing or those that are worthy Mormons or those that go and confess to a priest every before communion. It's not
Yeah.
about that. It's just about he wants all his children. So just don't be an asshole. It's so simple.
It
It's
is really
simple.
simple. It is really simple. Do no harm. The Hippocratic Oath, right? Like, it just seems like I wish that religious leaders had to take that oath too, because I think they
Your
do
prophet
believe
did,
that.
or the prophet did.
Well, they do
Think about
believe
it.
that they're making that promise or whatever, but it's like
Mhm.
they don't see the harm that they're doing because they're not the ones
It's
being
sad.
harmed by it. There are
Right.
so many white, cisgendered, heterosexual men who have absolutely no problem with Mormonism because they benefit the most from it,
Hmm.
And so they absolutely don't believe that the church does anything wrong. They don't it does
It's
you
a
don't
very
see
privileged
it.
spot to be in.
Yeah, you don't see it until it happens to you, until it happens up close,
Mhm.
and I think that if more people would consider that, um, the world would be a much better place,
Mhm.
Just
Exactly.
just try to have a little empathy and put yourself in the position of the other person. Just try to think about how they feel in the spot that they're in, and consider how they might like to be treated in that spot.
If it were
It's
you,
like,
treat
I know
others as you
so
wanna
many
be treated.
Mormons. Yeah, I know so many Mormons who are on the wrong side of Prop 8 until they had a gay family member. I
Mhm.
know so many people who were hateful towards transgender people until they had a transgender child.
Yeah.
I know so many people who just were so Mormon and so myopic
Mhm.
that they
Lost
can't
themselves.
consider other people's experiences until something comes and touches them personally,
You have to walk
you
in those
know?
shoes, right.
Yeah,
It's like with the murders, I don't want and I've heard you say it before, we don't want people to go through this,
yeah,
ever. But, I learned the hard way too. Not that anything I did brought this on, but I'm just saying it's
yeah,
just like, oh, it makes me realize a lot of things about my own, self-reflection, it's just
yeah,
like, oh. You kinda self-aware and, "Oh, I do this or I did that." Watching Ruby Frankie stuff and the exploitation go on, and, so I was like,
mhm,
"Oh, okay, I'm not gonna show my kids at all." Like, because that's the one thing I can do to protect them, and they don't have they're not consenting, It's just like,
yeah,
"Here," and you're throwing them to the wolves. I don't wanna be responsible for any of that, so it's just
yeah.
I've learned so many things through this case and, like, just the world around me,
Yeah,
It's
and
opened
I
a
have
lot
a
of things.
theory too. I too believe, like Jenny Allison, that the world would be a lot better place if more people could have empathy and compassion for other people, and I
Yeah,
believe that it starts with you.
within, yes.
If
I
you don't
learned
love
oh,
yourself, you cannot love other people well. You
amen.
have to forgive yourself or you can't forgive other people. You have
Yep.
to embrace the dark parts of yourself in order to understand the dark parts of other people. And you have to acknowledge the dark parts of yourself and integrate and love them
Mm,
because they have a place in you too. And if you don't do that, the dark part becomes
mm,
isolated and exiled, and it starts trying to fight its way out. And I believe that what happened
right.
with Lori is that
Resentment, anger. Mm,
resentment and anger built up. I think there was legitimately some abuse, although that's speculation on my
I do
part.
too. I'm speculating
But
right there with you.
but knowing how Janice and Barry are and how my parents were and how
Mhm.
controlling the religion is, I absolutely believe that Lori felt inadequate and was
Alone
desperate for approval and
and
love and
affection.
acceptance and didn't find it. And the reason why she became the way she did is because she stuffed down all of that anger and resentment about not
Yes.
being accepted, and
Yeah.
she became her dark parts.
And she couldn't help it. It was just, it erupted, and yeah, you can't control the dark parts that come out of you and reach out and touch everybody. And I think that is so key. That is so key right here.
Yep.
Lori
That's what
can't stand herself. She does not love herself. That's
Yeah.
what I see. Totally. And
Yep.
so because of that, she was never capable of being a mother,
Mhm.
unconditional love, because she's never received it, I don't believe. Not from
Right.
her church, not from her, I would say her parents. That's me
Nope.
alleging that, because you can see it in her. You can through her actions. By ye fruits ye shall know. And so
Yeah.
they're pretty rotten fruits, and it's sad because hurt people in that sense, and
Yep.
that kinda comes to life for me with that hurt people thing, and it's
Yeah.
very true, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's
Carl
the know all be all, but
Yeah. Carl Jung was a psychoanalyst, and he had this, he talks about archetypes, like we all have an inner critic, we all have a, warrior part, all of that stuff. He talked about the shadow as a part of your psyche, and he used to say that
Mhm.
if you don't learn to embrace and integrate the shadow, you become the shadow.
We don't wanna
And
be the shadow.
no, and actually,
Can
I
you imagine
announced
if
on
everybody was the shadow? Oh my god.
Yeah. I announced on my channel this morning that I'm opening a new channel. I'm still
What?
gonna have the Midlife Revolution podcast, it will still be there, but I have a new channel now called Shadow Side Stories, and it's
Uh-oh.
where I'm gonna discuss, other true crime cases in the context of what I've done with Lori's case, pointing out the manipulative behaviors, pointing out the shadow parts, and teaching people how to defend against that, and
Wow.
how to not be bullied and
Uh,
controlled by manipulative people. So, there's absolutely nothing on it right now. It's
mm,
completely empty because I'm working on the first
yes.
few episodes, but I will put the URL in here in case you wanna go subscribe.
Yeah, Angela Davis said she's subbed. So, yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad. Actually, I don't know if you know Mormon True Crime, but I love her. I found
No,
her
I don't
during
actually. I think she
yeah,
was on my stream
she
this
does
morning.
Mormon True Crime. Yeah, she does. And they actually have something with, Exmo Joe coming up in, like, 30 something hours, so
Yes,
I'm
Exmo
looking
Joe
forward to it.
started his own church, the Church of Korihor,
Oh, shit.
which
You damn
if you're
call me
not
a whore.
if you're not Mormon, the story of Korihor in the Book of Mormon, Korihor is like an
Ooh.
antichrist guy, and, the legend goes that he denied that God existed, and then the prophet said, "Okay," he said something like, if your God really exists, then why doesn't he strike me dumb?" And lo
I
and
hate that.
behold, he got struck dumb, and then he ended
Oh,
up being
like Chad.
killed
I'm
in
just
an
kidding.
yeah, he ended up being killed in an ignominious manner. Um,
What does
and
that
so
mean?
it means, like, very public and very brutal and awful.
They stoned
Um,
him. No, so
no, it was
I'm
something about
kidding.
his body being dragged through the streets by dogs or something like that. Um, yes, ma'am,
That's
Miss
awesome, Miss
Jackson. Every
Jackson.
day, 100%.
I'm
A
sorry, Miss.
member of the LGBTQ community right here. Um, but
Oh,
so he
no.
started the Church of Korihor because, um, it was like
And
the worst figure in the Book of Mormon.
I mean,
But I
that's what
love
Melanie
him.
Gibbs straight up called Lori.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she was like,
You're a
"Oh,
Korihor.
I have to have a reason for this." I
Yeah.
mean, you can call her a murderer, uh, what is it? Filicide, whatever. You can call her an adulterer, you can call her all the things, but don't call her a lukewarm damn Mormon. Don't call her no core whore, because she needs to have an answer on this. And I was
Yeah.
just like, that blew me away when I first heard that. I was like, "What? What did she say? What is that? Who? What?" I even made
Isn't
a
that one
shirt,
of the
and I was
things that
like,
made you
hashtag
wanna
core. Yes, I was like, "What? How Mormon
Yeah.
is this?" Oh, let me tell you.
Yeah,
So, I
and
had
then
to look up to make sure I wasn't, like, doing, blasphemy or something, and I was like, "Who the hell's Core?" So I looked, and I was like, "Oh, okay, Antichrist, okay."
yeah,
Good.
yeah. Yeah, isn't it funny,
Mhm.
as I don't know, sometimes when we think we know something, and then when we find out something different, we think it's really silly that we thought that thing at one point, you
Yes,
know?
yes, I feel so dumb or gullible or
Yeah, like
naive
there
or
was
fell
so
for
much
it.
superstition around
Mm,
Korihor, around the word Korihor, and around all of that stuff when I was Mormon, you know? So, oh,
mhm.
yay, I'm glad people thank you for subscribing.
Yeah,
I'm glad
I'm gonna
people
go
are
as soon
excited.
as we get off here. Like, I love supporting what you do. I like following what you
Oh, thank
do. I like talking to you. So
Yeah,
there's
this is
that.
fun, like, I feel like we're just on the phone together, but there's,
I
like,
know.
people watching and
Less
listening.
hours. Less hours.
Yeah, so I actually have pots to stir, so I need to jump
Okay.
off, but this has been awesome. I don't know how long have we been on here, like 2.5 hours or something? It's crazy.
2
Like,
hours and 49 minutes, girl.
I
But
mean,
that's okay.
I could talk about this stuff all day because,
Mhm.
I think it's so important, and
Hey.
I'm really grateful to be connected to you because I think a lot of people out there have these types of questions, but I don't know what to talk about unless somebody specifically tells me, like, "I don't
Alright.
understand this thing,"
Yeah.
right? So it's
You
so
text me and you
helpful.
said, "You can ask me whatever Mormon questions." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I have tons all the time." So,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would rather just off the cuff or like,
No,
do
seriously.
I set you up so that you kinda
Well,
know what I'm gonna ask or what? We
I
could do
don't
a
I don't
community
mind
post.
like, off the cuff and being surprised by it, but, like, for you, if you wanna,
Mhm.
like, just write down a topic or
Yeah.
something that you wanna know about, and we can do little mini like, we'll do a
Here
mini
you
top
go.
we'll just stick to one topic, how's that? Because that's
I like
when
it.
we get together
Okay.
and we start talking
Mhm.
about all the different things, like, we could talk about all the things,
Yeah.
but if
I'll
we
take my
just stick to one
medicine
topic.
before before we do. Okay. Alright.
Yeah.
She's a
Yeah.
pot stirrer too, so you go, girl. Yeah, I have some pots to bang around too, so
Yeah.
yeah. A
Yeah, the
wooden
new
spoon
channel is
and all.
called Shadow Side Stories.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're gonna support you. I'm gonna go find you on TikTok too. Yeah, I'll be in the
Thanks, yeah.
comments.
Oh, for sure, I can't wait, I can't
Yeah,
wait. I'm
that's
I'm
where
so
it
happy
happens.
that we got connected, and
Mm,
I love your parents so much, I can't wait to spend more
alright.
time with them. I really just need to just get in the car and go drive and see them. I
Yeah,
really, like it's so rare to find good people and to have a connection with good people that that's all
mhm,
I care about now is just spending
absolutely.
time with good people, you know,
They're
so
moving right now, and so, I mean, that's kinda going on, and so I know they're preoccupied with that,
yeah.
and, but I mean, they've invited you already, so and you're always
Yeah.
welcome here. But, you can also I can go show you where Uncle Charles went to high school and some
Mhm.
other things too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just kinda I don't know, I think it would be fun. There's also a hotel that's a casino as well, so, I mean, there's all kinds of things like that to do, but you could just come visit
Yeah,
and just
I would love to I wish that I
bring
had known Charles
your
better and
partner.
had been able to spend more time with him, you know? I saw him at a few family gatherings, I was at his baptism, but I just didn't know him very well, but, you know, he just seemed like such a kind and genuine
He
person,
was.
you know?
He really
But it
was.
was but it was always just, like, the Coxes always gave me the ick, and so it was always hard for me to, like, have that cognitive dissonance of, like, "Well,
And
this is
to be
family, so
around
I should be
yeah.
spending time with them, and I should feel good about spending time with them, but I don't, I feel icky, and I don't know
I wonder
why."
if Lori would have felt threatened even with I don't know why that went through my mind, but just, like, if you were to, I don't know, have engaged more maybe, you know how she is,
Oh,
like, with how Chad oh, they're dark now, you know, basically,
well,
so
I mean, if Lori and I had interact well, I first of all should say one of the main reasons that we didn't interact more and why I stopped kind of, when I started distancing myself was when she
yeah,
started, um, talking bad about Joe. And I'm just
yeah,
gonna use that language instead of saying what she said because I was so dumbfounded and baffled by that, that I was like, "I don't know who is right and who is wrong, but I've been on the wrong side of Lori before, and I've got my own stuff going on over here." Like, that was the year that
mhm,
my marriage probably was the worst, and so, um and then I stayed in for another, like, 10 years. So
right?
I just could not I could not be in proximity to her, you
Yeah,
know? It felt so wrong to me.
threatening or
Yeah, no, not
a
threatening,
little
just
bit of everything, I'm
it was like
sure.
I knew she was
Toxic.
not a healthy person, and I did not want
Mhm,
any more healthy people to be close to
mhm.
me anymore,
I
you
get it.
know?
No, I totally get that. I do.
So,
There's so I can't stand drama filled. I don't like drama, period. It makes me
yeah.
very uneasy, and I don't know how to navigate around that, I don't like people just no. I don't wanna have to pick a side. I'm not trying to make anybody else pick a side. Like, if I have to do
Yeah.
that, then we don't need to be around each other anyway, so
Yeah, so true.
yeah, yeah. But I appreciate it, and I'm gonna go sub and yeah, I'll be subbing. So thank y'all for showing up today,
Yeah, thanks
and,
for being here. Thanks for inviting me on your channel.
I appreciate it. I wish I could, do more than one thing at a time whenever I'm talking on here. I'm just like, I'm one
Oh, I
track.
can't either.
So
Yeah, if I
anything
get
outside.
distracted, it's over.
Yeah, I saw that you had text, but anyways, so here, I'm
You're fine.
answering you. That's how I answer, but,
All right. Well,
uh,
thank you, beautiful humans, for being here. Thanks for your questions and your comments and your support. All my people, make sure you subscribe to Crush's channel. All the people who came over here from Third Verse from that, and we will be back tomorrow morning in some form or fashion. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but I will be. If the hearing is streamable, I will
yeah,
stream it on my channel. If it's
and me
not, I'm
too,
going to do
and
the
then
same thing I did today. Yeah.
but yeah, I live on Cox Road, so that's the funny part, sweet Melissa. That's why I laugh.
TOX? Really?
Straight up. I'm like,
No
that's the
way.
only coincidence in this mother
No
effer,
way. That is
Yes,
wild. Oh my gosh.
Cox Mother Crackin' Road.
That's
Straight up.
crazy. That is
Before all
crazy.
this happened, so there's that. Anyway, bye, guys.
Cress's channel is difficult research. So
You all.
subscribe to Cress's channel. All right. Love you
Thank you all.
guys. Love
Bye.
you, Cresha.